Say a big good morning to our wonderful listeners. I want everyone to understand that I'm always going to have my heart with this program. And so even if you see me on other platforms, it doesn't mean I've abandoned the platform. It's just that sometimes duty calls at different places. So you'll see me sometimes just maybe 1 hour here, but I still will make sure that I come on the platform.
Right.
Yeah. So.
But it's good to have you in the studio, and we're very happy that you always make time. Yes. You always make time for our program here.
So take me like that.
We can't have you any other way, Nii. Thank you very much. We'll also be joined
if you don't hear my voice at some point, it means I'm off.
That you're off. Would also be joined by Dr. Ekua Amoakoh. She's a member of the National Communications team for the New Patriotic
You can't be late in opposition.
Party.
Clearly, it tells you that they are not ready for power.
Her voice. And Kwame Jantuah, a renowned member of the CPP and private legal practitioner, would also be joined by Enoch Afoakwa, lawyer and member of the NPP Legal Directorate, then Richard Kumadoe, security intelligence consultant. Yes, speaking to the issues happening in Bawku. Then finally, Ishaq Ibrahim, lecturer at the University of Professional Studies here in Accra at the law school. All of these guests will be helping us unpack all the three issues that I mentioned early on. Nii, since you are here, I want us to begin with the Paul Adom-Otchere one and the Office of the Special Prosecutor. There's controversy building around the invitation of Paul. And let me just give the background of that. So on Wednesday, Paul said he received an invitation from the Office of the Special Prosecutor. It became clear that the Office of the Special Prosecutor had started investigation into a revenue assurance contract that was signed by the Ghana Airports Company Limited and a private firm owned by the Strategic Mobilization Limited. And Paul was invited for that, invitation and that probe that the Office of the Special Prosecutor was conducted. Now, there was a video that he made some reflections on how he got the invitation and all the things he thought about the investigations that were being conducted by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Now, he went in to meet the Office of the Special Prosecutor that Thursday, and he didn't return. Not because he was found guilty, but because the Office of the Special Prosecutor had imposed a unique bail condition on him, that is to provide 2 landed properties. This was very unique. It got everybody talking. I mean, traditionally, our courts have persistently required third parties to provide sureties. It's not supposed to be provided by the accused themselves, right? So I want us to go into the legal framework of bail conditions and Nii, for the purposes of education. I mean, if you can start with what a bail is and at what point in time does a court, right, impose that on accused persons, then we can deal with the other issues proper.
Okay, so bail basically is a tool or a tool. Yes, a tool in the procedural as a statute actually when it comes to the courts that allows the courts to impose conditions for the attendance of suspects or accused persons to court. When it comes to the court, you now become an accused person, so it is a tool for getting the attendance of accused persons to court. Bail is also available for even on appeal. So a person can be convicted. Like, for example, Madam Agrada, who has been convicted, filed for bail pending appeal, that she has filed an appeal, and so she should be allowed to be on bail pending the determination of the appeal. So bail is not just reserved for persons who have been accused of a crime, but it's even for persons who have been convicted of a crime and who still believe that there's a good reason why the court should allow them to be free pending the determination of their appeal. Now, basically, it is the imposition of conditions, you understand, so as to ensure that you would attend court. You understand? So the primary aim of bail is to ensure that you attend to the court. For the investigators, in the case of an investigative agency such as an investigative and prosecutorial agency such as the Special Office of the Special Prosecutor, as explained by the Special Prosecutor himself, is to ensure that you would attend court. You understand? The suspect, will attend court or will attend to the investigators whenever they call upon the investigators. So, but you see, for the investigative bodies, we don't have statutes that defines the kinds of bail conditions that they may impose.
So investigative bodies like YOCO, the Office of the Special Prosecutor,
Exactly. There's a lot of discretion. You understand? What they normally go by is some protocols, that normally if you have been accused of, let's say, stealing or causing financial loss or whatever it is, maybe 50 million, you may be asked to bring a surety. You understand? You can, for example, if you are somebody who, let's say, is a sitting MP, okay, and you are not a flight risk, maybe you don't have 2 passports. You understand? You are not a dual. You can't be a MP and a dual citizen. So let's say, maybe you are not a dual citizen. You don't have 2 passports. You are not a flight risk. Because you are a well-known public figure, you understand, who has ties to the society, who is well-known, who probably has property, you understand, they may just give you self-recognizance bail, meaning that you yourself as a person is worthy of being told to, or there's a trustworthiness that you will come. But you see, human beings, as the Special Prosecutor said, are not angels. So where you have accused somebody of a crime and you have told the person that you are investigating the person, if the person believes that, look, the case against me is strong, the person may, you understand, flee the jurisdiction. And we've had it many, many times. You understand? We've had cases where people, during the course of a trial, have fled the jurisdiction. People who were on bail, on court bail, you understand, have been given the opportunity to go out of the jurisdiction, never came back. So it's always a careful balance act. So the courts and the investigative bodies have, over the years, decided, you understand, that the convention, the convention is convention. It's not law. You understand? That they normally will peg your bail conditions to the degree of the accusation that has been leveled against you. So if they look at the nature of the offense, then they prescribe what they would deem to be a satisfactory condition that they believe will cause you to attend. So that if you don't attend, then the bail bond, or the one who, the whatever it is that is being used as the bail bond, can be justified. You understand? Can be attached and so that if you run away, the state can fall on that to satisfy the conditions for the bail. So let's say you're accused of stealing 70 million. We say bring surety, landed 2 sureties, one of which must be justified. So you go and bring 2 people, one has landed property worth maybe 80 million, is verified. If you run away, we can use civil processes to fall on attach the property for sale in satisfaction of the fact that you ran away. So that is normally to force you to attend. So you just don't get up and go and stand surety for someone. Do you understand? So that is why the bill is basically to ensure that the person will, if you say you want him Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he will come. You understand? And that is why you want to make sure that whatever conditions you are imposing, you understand, must be reasonable. Because, of course, and it's a discretionary power, so it is guided by Article 296. You understand? It must be reasonable. It must be within the ambit of law. It must be follow due process. It must not be capricious. It must not be influenced by ill will and all those conditions. And that is why, if an agency is abusing or it seeks to abuse that power, or you deem that you can go to court for what we call a variation of the condition. So even a court can impose a condition that you can deem to be unreasonable. So let's say the court says you should bring property worth 200 million, and the case is maybe about 50 million. Clearly, if you don't have it, you don't have it. So if you are not able to raise it, you can go to a higher court for the court to vary the conditions of the bill to the point where you can actually, because remember that there's a presumption of innocence. You understand? So it is not meant as a way of punishing the accused person. What it is to ensure the attendance of the accused person either to the investigative body or, in the case of a court, to trial.
Right. Thank you very much for beginning that education for us on bail. Let me also just say that we've been joined via Zoom by Ishaq Ibrahim, lecturer at the University of Professional Studies here in Accra, especially the law school to be precise. Ibrahim, many thanks for your time. A very good morning to you. And thank you very much indeed for making time for the forum. I'm sure you have heard, right, you want...
Thank you very much. Good morning to you and good morning to our listeners. Let me especially say good morning to Nii. Nii pride himself of coming very early this morning. I want to remind him that I was already online before he came.
He was online.
But I enjoy his
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yes.
But lovely to have you, Mr. Ibrahim, on the show. I'm sure you must have heard Nii begin the education on why bail is needed, and for the layperson, what bail is in terms of its definition. Do we have a legal framework that regulates how bails are imposed on individuals, especially accused persons or those convicted?
Okay, thank you very much. Bail, I believe there is a legal framework. You see, the common law has given us a lot of guides, and even the nature of bail itself. If you look at the Constitution itself, bail is framed as a right. And it was for this reason you asked what they call Nii, what is bail in the first place? So bail, I believe, is a reprieve or a temporary reprieve based on what we call presumption of innocence. That everybody, regardless of what you are accused of, you are presumed to be innocent. And if a case cannot conclude on a day, and the nature of the case is such a way that it is not always possible to conclude it within a particular sitting or within a day. And if it is likely that the case needs to continue, then there's a need to give you a temporary reprieve. Unless certain conditions suggest that if you are given that reprieve and they need you on a particular time, then it is possible that the prosecution or the court or whoever is dealing with your matter is not likely to seize control of you to attend. In that instances, they may determine that it is better to keep you than to let you go. And as you can see, there was a case of Martin Cable. I don't remember whether it was number 1 or number 2. That made it clear that every allegations, depending on, regardless of the nature of the case, is bailable in Ghana. So there was this system whereby the court generally were keeping people, if it is murder or any other serious case, there was always a presumption that you cannot get a bail. And this case made it very clear that everyone is entitled to a bail, regardless of the nature of the case. So to give you the temporary reprieve is built on the presumption of what? innocence. And it is a right of everybody, because we want to make sure that if, for example, you are not convicted at the end of the case, you don't unnecessarily lose your freedom. But if you relate it to the current events of the OSP, so we don't really have a fixed law as to when they say if you meet this condition, you must be given a bail. There's still need for some level of discretion. And as Nii rightly said, also how we exercise our discretion is guided by Article 296 of the 1992 Constitution. The kind of relevant factor you have to place your decision on. In other words, your decision as to whether to give a bail or not to give a bail is not unfettered, it's controlled. And then in the common law as well, there is a case called the Wednesbury test, the Wednesbury unreasonableness test, or sometimes we call it irrationality. If a decision maker is asked to make a decision, what factors can you use? And if those factors meet the rationality test, this is what the Wednesbury test really talks about. So your decision as to the nature, as to what you are asked to decide should not be so unreasonable that no reasonable person could have come to that conclusion. This is basically what the test is. So it should not be irrational. For example, there are certain ways we can satisfy bail conditions. And if one of them is that we need to have an asset worth a particular amount, say that maybe if there are confiscation orders being made in the future, or if the value of the property this way, and if we give you bail, you are not likely to return, then the OSP need to make a recovery. But doesn't matter whose assets are, who owns those particular assets. So specifically from what we are hearing in the reports, they say that Paul himself must have 2 landed property. Why does he have to have 2 landed property? Perhaps, maybe 1 landed property could worth more than 2. For example, if we were to have a land in Tamale and one has a land in Accra, maybe the 1 land in Accra could even worth more than 2 landed property or 4 landed property in Tamale or Bolgatanga. Why does it have to be 2? This is why the irrationality is coming into play. And if they are not yours, and the OSP is much more concerned about recovery, if in case you run away, doesn't matter whether you own the assets or somebody else. If you start by saying that the assets should be in the name of Paul, what basically you are saying is that Paul is not, bail is not a right of everybody, but it is only reserved for the rich. And if you are even rich, it's reserved for people who chose to invest on properties. What about if you were to have assets worth more than the 2 landed property that you have, but they are not in a landed property, but they are in stock, or they are in the other areas? So to be frank with you, in the beginning, I used to try to defend the OSP because of the nature of corruption, how difficult it is to fight corruption. But the press conferences of the OSP and some of these conditions he's bringing about troubles me so much that some of his actions can no longer be defended. Just look at the nature of it. And now people have the right to read into the fact that you have a personal vendetta with Paul, that you want to use this opportunity to settle it. The rule of law requires that you should not use the law for your personal benefit. Whether you have issue with Paul or not, this shouldn't have been the basis of which you make your decision. And I believe that the people who are saying that he just wants to teach Paul a lesson, they are right. Because the decision that he must have 2 landed property before he could get a bail is just so unreasonable. I agree with Nii that, yes, sometimes you may go to a court or a higher body that will vary the bail. But why should you make it, why should you take such irrational decision in the first place?
Right.
So I'm very, very troubled about the recent activities of the OSP. You cannot fight corruption truly if you have to be dividing society based on everyday decision that you make. You must make sure that you make decisions that the moment somebody sees this, a reasonable person, of course, sees it, will say that no, what you are asking is not unreasonable. But if you ask for this, if you listen to Paul yesterday, the sort of people who send their sympathy, it wasn't just an MPP members. It was across the whole sector of society in Ghana, including NDC members, who by the nature of Paul's program wouldn't have sympathized with him. But here is the case. Even NDC members are openly sympathizing with him and calling him and urging him that this OSP is really abusing their powers. And I also believe that the nature of our education needs to be revised.
Right.
It's like the OSP is concentrating more of the powers given to him by the state. But he doesn't really care about Chapter 5 of the 1992 Constitution that gave the individuals right. And maybe political science, we need to probably emphasize it in law schools. Why do we need the state in the first place? We need the state to safeguard the liberty of the individual. So you cannot just exercise those powers in vain. You have to have, in a democracy,
right?
You must have
Mr. Ibrahim,
individual liberty.
Mr. Ibrahim, I'll be coming over to you again to find out from you whether or not the OSP is overstepping its mandate in the discharge of its duties. Let me also say that we've been joined by Enoch Afoakwa, lawyer and member of the NPP Legal Directorate. Enoch, if you can hear me, a very good morning to you, and thank you very much for making time for the show this morning. Enoch, can you hear me?
Let me say a very good morning to yourself.
Oh, fantastic.
And my co-panelists in the studio and online.
Right.
Hope you're all doing well, sir.
Well, we can't complain. Thank you very much for making time for the show. You've heard from Nii, and you've also just heard from Mr. Ibrahim, the preliminary comments on how bail should be imposed. I want to find out from you, and because this is a growing controversy, from what has been known in time past or recent memory, in terms of imposing bail, we know that the accused persons are not supposed to provide sureties that are owned by them. It's supposed to be done by a third party. But recently, there seemed to be a marked difference from, what has been traditionally known. How does that grab you?
Yeah. It's a worrying situation, and it's a growing concern across all facets of national life. Looking at the recent events where law enforcement agencies like the Economic and Organized Crimes Office, the National Intelligence Bureau, the Office of Special Prosecutor, and other allied security agencies are fixing bail conditions, which somewhat is highly unconscionable, means a lot to be desired of, and that as a country we need to rethink the issues of bail and properly codify, if not codify, clear points as to what should guide law enforcement agencies in determining the liberty of persons arrested, restricted, or in detention as far as their ongoing investigations are concerned. It will interest you to know that the parent law of our country, the 1992 Constitution and Article 14, clearly states that every person shall be entitled to his personal liberty, and no person shall be deprived of his personal liberty except in the following cases and in accordance with procedure permitted by law. So there is a procedure permitted by law, and this procedure is regulated by Section 96, Section 96.5, Section 96.6, and even Section 96.4 of Act 30 of 1960, that is the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act. So I wonder why in our current dispensation, law enforcement agencies have the appetite to go beyond what they are expected to do as officers of the law. in doing so, they forget that they have a duty bestowed on them as far as their discretionary powers are concerned, and Article 296 of the Constitution, which clearly states and cautions authorities or institutions with discretionary powers not to exercise same in an arbitrary or capricious manner. So, in certain bail conditions in that magnitude, where which prevents persons in custody, that you wish to have the attendant in court, or you wish to have the attendant in your office to ensure an ongoing investigation is completed, is kept in custody unlawfully, then it becomes so arbitrary and so unconscionable. In recent past, I remember the Hanan case, the buffer stock matter, where Mr. Hanan was granted a police inquiry bill, let me say Yoko bill, in the sum of 60 million Ghana cedis. The wife was granted, say, in the sum of 30 million Ghana cedis. So, husband and wife, the couple, were looking for assets worth 90 million Ghana cedis before they were allowed to step outside to ensure their attendance at Yoko or the attendance in court if they were formally charged and presented before a court properly constituted. I remember I was in the same matter where Bernard Ntwibo-Siako, the Ashanti regional chairman of the NPP, was arrested by the Economic and Organized Crimes Office, and his bail conditions was pegged somewhere around 50 million. And you see, it's an affront to the liberty of the persons involved. It clearly prejudices their presumption of innocence under Article 19(2)(c), which clearly states that until a person pleads guilty or is proven guilty, the person, the accused person or the arrested person is presumed to be innocent. So, we're light that state agencies would want to use a pre-trial detention as a form of punishment. Fritz, it will interest you to know that even a court properly constituted is minded as far as setting bail conditions, because Section 96(4) of the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act of 1960, Act 30, clearly states that courts should not withhold bail as a form of punishment or as a form of pre-trial punishment against accused persons. So, even courts properly constituted, clothed with judicial authority to determine the liberty of persons, are careful in fixing bail conditions. And in the event where the conditions set by the courts are arbitrary, accused persons have the right to also apply for variation of those conditions at a higher court. If the high court fixes an onerous bail condition, you have the power to go to the Human Rights Court, or you have the power to appeal same at the Court of Appeal, or anywhere that you want to climb to ensure that your liberty is not infringed upon. But you know, the mystery behind the fixing of these onerous bail conditions against accused persons in this instance, clearly it is against former political appointees of the former NPP administration, because clearly we have not been told, or we have not read in the news in recent time, that a member of the governing National Democratic Congress has been arrested, restricted, or detained, upon which such onerous bail conditions have been placed on their neck. Paul Adom-Otchere was not granted a self-recognizance bill. If he was granted a self-recognizance bill of which you are requesting that he produces a condition, let's say a landed property or an immovable property standing in his name, that would have been different matter. But the condition, his bail condition was not a self-recognizance bill of one. And why must someone who is not standing surety for himself present assets in his name to stand as surety? It is unconscionable, clearly. It defeats it defeats logic, and it defeats the purpose on which law enforcement agencies and the discretionary powers that that is bestowed on them to exercise in favor of the officers and the management of cases that is in hand with them. Bail is a contract, and like my learned senior niece said, it is to ensure the attendance of the suspect. Because he has not been charged before in the court, he is still a suspect. It's to ensure the attendance of the suspect to appear before the OSP for ongoing investigations, for investigations to be completed. if you formally charge him before a court properly constituted, it is to ensure that the accused person attend to stand trial to defend his case before the court. That is the cardinal principle of bail. So, as part of ensuring the attendance of an accused person before a court properly constituted, Section 96 of Act 6 of Act 30 clearly codifies the grounds upon which a court properly constituted can refuse to grant bail to an accused person standing trial, whether or not the accused person has a fixed place of abode in the republic within the jurisdiction.
Right, Mr. Afoakwa. Right, I'll be coming to you. If we can just land in just 30 seconds for me while I come to Nii and come back to you.
Sure. Once we are interrogating this subject matter, we are establishing binding precedent upon which future administrations, future officers, law enforcement agencies will be following through, and that we will continue to cite this precedent that has been established in recent times. And would that inure to the benefit of the democracy that we are building as a country? Certainly not.
Right.
We must let the rule of law prevail.
Now, without much needed education given on why bail conditions are imposed on accused persons or convicted person, now the controversy that is raging in this country is that the OSP is requesting the accused persons to provide sureties in their name. And
it's worrying. It's highly worrying.
Afoakwa, I'll come back to you. I need to react to this quickly for me.
Very well.
You and I, we've had a very wonderful legal discussion, and one of the things that I have always said is that my very good friend Martin, who is a crusader for criminal justice reform, has said that we have a criminal statute that was done in 1960. Do you understand? We are in 2025. If, as lawyers and as persons who work in the human rights space and in criminal defense litigation, both as prosecutors and as defense lawyers, we come to the realization that we need to legislate and reform our criminal justice system, then maybe this is the time to do so. Maybe this is the time to come up with a Bails Act, for example, that will define and delineate the various amounts for bail, pursuant to whatever offenses you are being, charged with, for both the the investigative bodies and the courts as well. Because you see, when you give somebody a discretion, you understand, and the person is working within the discretion, then the only way you can challenge that discretion is to go to court. You understand? Even where you think that the person may be abusing that discretion. Because we have been in this country under different regimes. This is not the first time that the NDC has come to power. You understand? So when I hear people screaming and shouting that it is because it is targeted at former members of the
previous administration,
I ask myself, so in the last 8 years, between when President Addo was in power, there were no NDC officials who were taken to court or who were investigated. But hold on. There were no NDC officials who were paraded at the NIB and at the police stations. During the special prosecutor, NDC people were not prosecuted. From MPs to what have you, Martin Amidu prosecuted the current majority leader, for example. They didn't post bail. All of those people didn't post bail. You see, when we want to have a productive discussion on a matter, let's take out the politics. If you believe that this is the time for us to reform our bail laws or our laws on bail, let's all do so. Because after all, we are all talking about a constitutional constitutional reform, right? And the bill is actually, first and foremost, as one of my learned colleagues said, a constitutional provision. So if we think that this is the time for us to reform our bail laws or our laws on bail, let's do so, apolitical. But if a suspect, and listen to Kisi Ajabeng very carefully, you may have your issues, and I understand there have been verbal clashes. Paul has taken on Kisi's office and Kisi's person on his program. Let's not lose sight of that. If we want to be very blunt and be very fair, he has, if you see social media posts, called Kisi Ajabeng a drunkard, among others. It is on social media. Hold on.
Well,
I didn't say that.
I can't.
I have seen that.
Well, I can't independently confirm.
I have seen the social media post. So if we had to say that simply on that, he was literally paying him back for whatever it is that he has said on this thing. That would be stretching it. Kisi was on was on air in front of parliamentarians, the Select Committee and others, stating the obvious, that his office does not oppose bail. And that is on record. The Office of the Special Prosecutor does not oppose bail. That is a record. But hold on. This is an office that does not oppose bail in court. The Attorney General's office opposes bail on grounds. The Special Prosecutor's office does not oppose bail when it comes to criminal prosecution. It leaves it to the discretion of the court. And he says it as a fact that his office does not oppose bail when it comes to suspects. What he wants is the point that when they call for your attendance, you come. So when they made the first, if the narration as is being put up, because we've not heard the narration in respect of what precisely happened in the case of Paul Adom-Otchere when it comes to the Office of the Special Prosecutor. But let's take what Paul has said as the gospel truth. If indeed there was a first suggestion in terms of conditions of bail, what did Paul's lawyers do? They asked for a revision of those terms. And that is normal. If they make a first offer in terms of conditions of bail and you are not satisfied, you ask for a revision of those conditions.
While you're being detained.
My brother, one of the first things you'll be told when you are in law school as a lawyer is that when it comes to visiting the police station, your job as a lawyer there is not to go and talk big English. Your first job is to secure the release of your client. That is the first thing that any good law teacher will teach you. At least Professor Kumadoe is one law teacher I can sit and stand up for any day. That is the first lesson he will teach you. That when you go to the police station as a police station, when you go to the police station as a lawyer, the first thing you want to do for your client is to ensure that your client walks back home. Do you understand? So if your client and the police, the thing is, if in practice, there's the theory and there's the practice of the law. And let me be very practical with you here. You go to the police station, haughty, high-handed, you want to talk to the police anyhow, you want to tell them what to do. We are in this country. Gregory Afoakwa, a court granted him bail. The police CID boss was summoned for contempt in court. And the IGP was summoned for contempt in court under the administration of Enoch Afoakwa. They went to court on that day. They never released Gregory Afoakwa. Gregory Afoakwa was in custody. He was granted bail by a court of competent jurisdiction. The police were summoned to court on contempt charges. What did we hear in this country? So sometimes when I hear my colleagues from the NPP move into the politics, then we are all forced to move into the politics. But when we want to deal with the issue, let's deal with the issue apolitical. And the point being, if we all agree that our laws on bail are outmoded, let's call for reform. I'll be the first person to call for it because I have been a practitioner both as a prosecutor and as a defense lawyer. And I know the practicalities when it comes to the exercise of bail. Okay, I'm dealing with a case now where a person was alleged. You see, the allegation is you stole this amount. the person has been, we've gone all the way to the Court of Appeal for bail variation. The bail variation we got from the Court of Appeal was the amount of the accusation. So as I speak, my client is still in custody. Not because he is guilty, but because he cannot meet the bail conditions. And even when you've gone for a bail variation order, the court is saying that we cannot give you an amount below the accusation. And this is somebody who is supposed to be what? Deemed innocent until proven what? Guilty. So in this regime, you can actually be just accused of an offense, and the bail condition that will be set for you will still mean that you'll be in custody. Is that the kind of justice system that we want? So we need to reform the system.
Right.
We need to reform. It is very frustrating when you are a lawyer and you are defending your client, you understand. And hey, there are issues to do with bail and the way the system is. Look, even on the issue of verifying sureties can drive you crazy.
Right. It's a very important point you make about the reforms for bail. But again, you made a very good point about the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And you said that he wasn't opposed to bail. But what is the essence of that statement if accused persons can't satisfy bail conditions imposed by the Special Prosecutor?
So a prosecutor or the office makes a bail imposition, lays the conditions where you are dissatisfied, as professionally was done by his lawyers. The first thing they did was to call for a variation, and the office did not refuse the variation. But the point is that it goes through a system, and the system is where, if you want to look at it, you can say that, look, if I invite you at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, I conduct my initial interrogation, it's 5 o'clock. The person who will probably have to verify your bill is not at his desk. Do you understand? It is invariable that you may probably be detained. That is the inconvenience. So that's why I'm saying that if we want to call for reform, then the reform must cut across. Those who go to court and get bail, you can get bail you get a bail order for your client in the morning. It will take you 1 week to finish the bail process. Ask any practitioner. You can get a court bail and it can take you 1 week to complete the process. So we need structural reforms within the system, not just the office. Somebody will tell you that going to a police station on an accusation in the morning and being able to come out the next day on bail is a record. Do you understand? So what about those who went to the police stations and and took them 1 week to finish executing their bail conditions? What about that?
There were questions that were raised with that.
Exactly. So that's why I'm saying that let's take the politics out, because we have been in this country where somebody has been granted bail, you understand, and for 6-7 years the person was still in custody. So if you want to talk about records and the fact that some people have been targeted and all that, I don't think that is the way to have a meaningful conversation. And I would simply sit here and recount this person has done this person has done that, and that is where we will end up.
I mean, it beats all logic. Why would the Office of the Special Prosecutor, in this case the SP, impose a bail that he knows that they'll not be able to meet?
How do you know that?
Well, maybe his discretion, but again, then wait for the people to, ask
the person asks. No, listen. The person asks you that provide me with landed property, okay, in your name. You say you don't have any. So your lawyers ask for a variation.
But is that right? I mean, for ordinary Ghanaians.
But why the Office of the Special Prosecutor, according to him, says that his aim of asking you for landed property is to ensure that if you fail to appear in his office the next time they invite you, they can attach the property. That is standard. Because if I'm investigating you for an alleged offense, I know the quantum of money that is involved. And remember, in this case, if the reports are true, says that of any amount of no value, and you say you don't have, I said fine. So then you ask for a variation, and your lawyer successfully asked for a variation. So somebody else stood surety for him. What is wrong with that? I ask you for something, you say I don't have, but can I get it in another way? I say yes. and then I give you the variation. You say I've committed an offense, or you've not heard some before. I mean, let's not make a mountain out of a molehill. I mean, I think that what is important is that for me, if I was a defense lawyer, my client is home, or uncle, it don't be so. Your client is home the next day. That's the most important thing.
But is it fair? Is it fair for justice? Is it fair for justice, especially because
what about Gregory Afoakwa, who took 8 years? Who took 8 years and he got bail when? After how many years?
The charges are not the
same.
The charges are not the same. Now the charges matter.
Now
the charges matter.
Can you imagine someone point
issue.
Your
I mean, this.
Hey, so you saw Gregory Afoakwa points and acting on somebody's face.
This issue,
not a meeting presided over.
Yeah, this issue of this Office of the Special Prosecutor, requesting, bail conditions to be satisfied by the accused persons rather than third parties who are supposed to provide these sureties, raises questions with fairness and legal consistency, especially because, for instance, if an ordinary Ghanaian, maybe me, I've been asked to provide 2 landed properties for maybe having an issue with the law, and I'm not able to provide that. How about the other person out there? Is it fair for justice? Let me come to you, Kwame. Mr. Kwame Jantuah, private legal practitioner, and of course, renowned member of the CPP. Yeah, renowned member of the CPP.
Genetically.
Right, good morning to you.
Morning.
Good to see you in the studio.
Good to be here. And I haven't seen my dear for a long time.
Yes.
And let me also say Dr. Ekua Amoakoh, member of the National Communications Team of the New Patriotic Party. Doc, good morning to you. You've dogged us for a while now.
How?
You've been making a lot of waves. I've been seeing it. It's good to have you in the studio.
So good to be here.
I hope your morning has been great so far.
Yes. And I'm happy to join the conversation this morning.
Let me also say that we're live on Facebook as well on Asaase Radio 99.5 in Accra. I'm looking forward to reading your thoughts and comments on some of the stories that we'll be discussing here on the show. If there's something that resonates strongly with you, please go ahead, feel free, and leave a comment there for me, and I promise I'll read it. Last week, most of you were on my case that I wasn't reading your comments, but I promise that there's a change in behavior. I'll be reading those comments.
He's repented. He's repented.
I have repented, and I'll be reading those comments as well. And let me also just indicate that we'll be speaking to one of the legal representatives for the ACE broadcast journalist, and of course the former board chair of the Ghana Airports Company Limited, Paul Adom-Otchere, to really understand what happened at the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And so, just so you know, that Paul has been released on bail. From the updates that was given by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, there was a revision to the bail conditions imposed by the office. So at the moment, he's at home and cooling off per some of the videos that we have seen making rounds on social media. Mr. Jantuah, let me come to you. This issue raises, like I said, legal inconsistency. For a very long time, we know that the courts traditionally accept sureties by third parties. But in the case of Paul Adom-Otchere, who wasn't found guilty of any crime but was detained simply because he couldn't satisfy the bail conditions. Is this fair?
Good morning to our Facebook audience and Facebook panelists. And good morning to all those who are listening to us. It's a beautiful day. Let me start from the point that, do we think the OSP just clutched from the air that bring property, or your bail is based on properties that you have? Is that what we think happened? Typically, by the time suspects are asked, and when I discussed this on another station on Friday, so before I went, I made sure that I did some work on it. From what I gleaned from it, the OSP is one institution that has investigative and prosecutorial independence. And typically, by the time a suspect is asked to declare their assets, the OSP would have already conducted preliminary investigations to identify properties or income streams they believe the suspect owns. Therefore, when the OSP requests disclosures, it is often based on prior evidence. Any property a suspect fails to declare, but which the OSP identifies is liable to forfeiture. So you ask me, what law underpins this? Remember that under the OSP Act, all suspects are subject to lifestyle audit. Legislative Instrument LI 2374, specifically Regulation 21, Form 11A, empowers the OSP to require suspects to declare all properties and sources of income within 30 days. Failure to comply attracts a custodial sentence of not less than 2 years and not more than 4 years. So what the OSP is doing is enshrined in law. Yes, you'll ask the question. They use their discretion. No, so? And they look at the standard of that individual, the profile of that individual. And if they have done the investigations before coming to request.
Do we know if investigation in this instance was done?
Yes. I've checked. It was done. It was done before Paul was even invited. So they knew.
This was made known by the Office of the Special Prosecutor?
I said, you go and phone them and find out. When I was doing my investigations, I found out from them. Because I didn't want to come and sit on TV and just talk, or sit on radio and just talk, or sit on the media and just talk.
Yeah, but we also want to verify that indeed the office was able to do those investigations before imposing the bail on him.
They did. That's what they said to me, that they did. So, for me, the important thing is it shrined in any law? And it is shrined in law, because they have the right to do lifestyle investigations. They can do to the last penny in your bank account. They have the power to do it. So, if they have done that, for me, based on the fact that there's a law to support what they did, no problem. If it so happened that it was arbitrary, yes, then we'll say it isn't fair. But it doesn't seem to be arbitrary.
It doesn't?
It seems to.
Asking somebody to provide two landed properties in their own name, other than a third party, is not arbitrary?
Wait. It's not arbitrary. It's discretion. Two different things. It's discretion based on the fact that they have the power to do investigations. And their investigations brought up landed property. And they decided to use that as a bail condition. And as Nii rightly said, if the bail condition is something that you feel is too high for you, go to court and let them vary it.
So intentionally you try to impose that, then you wait for a revision before it's, while the person is in custody and being detained.
When you're using legal language, be very, very careful. Intentional and discretion are two different things. Two different things. If you say intentionally, then it means they had some intention to do that.
But maybe not intentionally.
Discretion. They decided to use the discretion of the properties as a condition of bail. It's their right. Cannot stop them. It's their right. And really, if we feel that kind of discretion shouldn't be used, let's change it. They have the discretion to do it. They have the discretion to do it. It's backed by, and I've quoted you the law. Go read it.
Discretion.
So I don't feel that they have outstepped. Maybe you might say that they shouldn't have used that discretion, but they've done their investigations and realized certain things in there that they could use to attach to the bail condition.
If you say the Office of the Special Prosecutor has not overstepped its mandate, so for instance, where I cited the case of, the traditional practice of courts, asking sureties to be provided by third parties, either than the accused themselves. Is that not?
Wasn't that a third party who got Paul out?
After revision.
I said, didn't a third party get Paul out?
After revision, and he was in custody. He was detained.
Didn't a third party get Paul out? Didn't?
After revision.
Mm-mm. Didn't a third? If you're saying they don't even have they don't allow third party, then they shouldn't allow the third party who came to release him. They shouldn't have allowed it. They should have said to that third party, it is not allowed via our ways of bail. But third party was allowed, and Paul is at home. Period.
Right. Let me come to you, Dr. Amoakoh. Well, I have to mention Dr. Amoakoh.
Let's be very, 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 very clear. Paul is innocent until proven guilty. He wasn't called because he was accused of anything. They were doing investigations, and because of the investigations, he was called. And he is innocent. At this particular moment we sit, even when he goes into court, because he is still innocent until proven guilty.
And he's innocent. Is that not the more reason why the bail conditions are supposed to be favorable? Let me come to you, Dr. Amoakoh.
I have a few questions to my big brother here.
Let me come to you. The NPP seem to think that the investigations by these investigative bodies, Yoko, Shraj, even the CID, and the Office of the Special Prosecutor, is rooted in some political vendetta.
The OSP especially is very obvious. Even this
but the law that establishes the Office of the Special Prosecutor, that gives it that discretionary powers in terms of how it's gone about the investigation. In recent memory, he hasn't done anything wrong, unless you want to point to me.
Well, wrong might be relative here. I don't know what we will all think about releasing the confidential medical reports of somebody who is your suspect. You might not be against the law.
Let's stick to the substantive issue.
You can't. You asked me to speak on a matter, so you can't also then restrict me on what I can say.
But what we have on the table is
no. I'm establishing a pattern.
Right.
So you can't do that. Might not be illegal, but is that right? I heard my big brother here talk about how he has the right to do a lifestyle audit and all of that. But from the little I know in law, bail is not supposed to be punitive. And this whole, if you look at the whole saga and how it's unfolded, it doesn't take too much for you to realize that it looks like a targeted.
Define punitive.
It's not supposed to be a punishment. You are just supposed to prove that you are coming.
Doc, I'll come back to you. Sorry to rudely interrupt. We have on the phone line one of the legal representative for Paul Adom-Otchere, Lane and Nii Kpakpo, legal representative that represented Paul at the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Nii Kpakpo, many thanks for your time. A very good morning to you and welcome to the forum.
I appreciate it.
Fantastic. Where's the whereabouts of your client now?
Mr. Adom-Otchere, as I'm sure you would have realized a few minutes ago from social media, has been home since yesterday evening.
Now, there are many who are curious and wanting to know the insider of things that happened at the Office of the Special Prosecutor. On Wednesday, your client received an invitation by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Your lawyers, or from what he said from his account on social media, you didn't have the time and you wanted that invitation to be honored on Monday, but the Office of the Special Prosecutor pressed and said he need to come in on Thursday. He went in on Thursday and the Office of the Special Prosecutor told us that they couldn't release him, or he was detained because he couldn't meet bail conditions. Can you tell us what really happened on Thursday when he went before the Office of the Special Prosecutor?
Okay, so a very good morning to your listeners, Fritz. Now, as you've just pointed out, so on Thursday, the legal team was with Mr. Paul Adom-Otchere at the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And after a series of questions and interviews, as part of the process, Mr. Adom-Otchere had indicated in his profiling that he had no landed properties. But about 30 minutes later, when the question of bail came up, the officer in charge came back to say that they wanted 2 landed properties registered in the name of Mr. Adom-Otchere and will not even accept one that was in the joint of somebody else. And in addition to that, they also wanted public servants, one of whom was not less than the rank of a principal. Now, naturally, as lawyers, the team protested that the conditions were unreasonable, because this is a man who had voluntarily offered himself to interview somebody who is well known and who had expressed interest and willingness to cooperate to the process. But the Office of the Special Prosecutor insisted that in the absence of providing these things, they were going to detain him. And indeed, did detain him. And so on Thursday, we went back to the Office of the Special Prosecutor to engage them towards varying the...
On Friday, you mean?
Hello?
You mean on Friday you went back to...
On Friday, sorry, yes. We went back to Special Prosecutor to engage him towards varying the bill. And eventually, reason prevailed. He varies the condition to now require 1/3 party surety with any landed property. And in furtherance of that, accepted a corporate guarantee by Mr. Adom-Otchere's employers, just one group of companies who also offered the property for surety. So he dispensed with the requirement for the 2 landed properties to be in the name of Mr. Adom-Otchere, and also the requirement of 2 public servants, who one of whom was not less than a principal.
Right. I want you to tell me the nature of the deposition that was between the Office of the Special Prosecutor and your client, Paul. What's the nature of it?
I mean, unfortunately, I'm unable to go into the cause of the matter related to his time at the Limited, and specifically in relation to the contract that has come up well in the public space and social media regarding the Vertex company. The questioning period was uneventful. A few instances where the lines of questioning are made.
Lawyer, we seem to be losing you there. Can you reposition yourself so we have an uninterrupted call? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, please go ahead. You're making a point.
I will say that the questioning period was uneventful, and except when we got to the point of bail, that was where the issue started. And so it was just questioning whether satisfactory or otherwise. He provided answers to the best of he could, and that is what happened.
Right. Would you describe this deposition as friendly, cordial? Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you repeat the question?
I wanted to find out if you would describe the deposition between the Office of the Special Prosecutor and your client as friendly and one that was held in a cordial, conducive environment.
I don't think anybody enjoys being called to any law enforcement. But like I said, his lawyers were there to make sure his rights were not abused. So as long as the questioning was consent, there was a specific event for my got to the issue of bail.
Now, there's this controversy surrounding the bail conditions that were imposed on your client. Traditionally, courts would ask that third parties honor the sureties. But in this instance, your client was asked to provide 2 landed properties in his own name, either than a third party. When the Office of the Special Prosecutor made that pronouncement, how did you receive it?
Fritz, like I pointed out, as lawyers, we were taken aback, and then we protested for the simple reason that bail is intended only to secure the attendance of the accused. And we were convinced the office believes the only way to secure the attendance of Mr. Adom-Otchere, who had volunteered, was to require that he provides 2 landed properties in his own name, especially when he had shortly before that period indicated to the he has landed property solely in his name. So it appears at whatever cost to detain Mr. Adom-Otchere because they were asking him to produce that which he didn't have. And for us, the declaration on Friday goes to them our position that the conditions that on Thursday were simply unreasonable and an abuse of the exercise of that discretion because the Office of the Special Prosecutor on Friday accepted one surety landed property by a third party capable of securing the attendance of Mr. Adom-Otchere. On Thursday, when we were there, we were protesting that the conditions that had been imposed were reasonable. Remain resolute that, consistent with traditional practice, bail is not intended to punish. Those conditions the Office of the Special Prosecutor set on Thursday were just unreasonable.
Right. There were also reports on social media, and I want you to confirm this for me. Where exactly was he detained? Because we're told that he was whisked away from the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Where was your client detained?
So I quickly comes to light that he was detained at one of the NIB facilities around Bawku. But initially was taken away. We were not of where he was being taken. In fact, we have made visits to the National Security Headquarters and late in the night, we were informed that he was not there and he was somewhere else. So until yesterday, when we confirmed from him, we were not too sure where he was held.
Okay. And I'm sure that didn't augur well for you as somebody representing your clients. But
I mean, certainly, Fritz.
Absolutely. Let me just ask my last question, then I can leave you to go. I'm sure you have a lot to get off to today. The Office of the Special Prosecutor in that update release said that he's still under serious investigation. Did it really communicate to you what the coming days is going to look like? Is Paul expected to go back to the Office of the Special Prosecutor anytime soon? What's the plan here?
Well, so as part of the report once a week, and that's mere reporting. But as and when the office needs him for any further interviews, I'm sure they would extend an invitation, which Mr. Adom-Otchere would honor, just as he did the first as a law-abiding citizen. So we wait to see what the prosecutor wants to do and what his next steps are.
Right. Thank you very much for making time to speak to us this morning. We don't take it for granted, and we're truly appreciative. That is Lynn AJ, one of the private legal practitioners who represented Paul Adom-Otchere, former chair of the Ghana Airports Company Limited, and also an ace broadcast journalist. Well, Dr. Amoakoh, let me come to you and making your point before I rudely interrupted to go on the phone to speak to the legal representative.
It's clear this whole thing is a witch hunt and persecution. It's very clear. I don't even want to go into how the board chair is the one that has been called and the MD is sitting at home. I don't want to even.
Well, have you seen the investigations published by Manasseh Azuri?
Yes, I'm pretty sure you've seen it as well. And you saw the minutes of the board meeting where he's directing the management to go through PPA processes and do whatever they.
And he also appended his signature to the minutes that approved Evertex, the company that was awarded
that a crime?
Well,
no, it's not.
Did you see the response of Manasseh Azuri that Paul said that he didn't know the company, but he has on record that Paul know the company?
So Manasseh is a prosecutor, or he's a court now?
I'm just taking out I'm just taking out what is out there.
I'm just saying, and all that you're saying,
isn't it?
It's information.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not. All what you're saying is not grounds for. I mean, it's neither here nor there.
I'm just saying that if what the special prosecutor is saying that there must be some procurement breaches and sole source. And so from what Manasseh has told us,
and your evidence to that is from what Manasseh is saying. And I'm telling you that even from the evidence you are bringing out from Manasseh Azuri, it doesn't reach the threshold of proving that the board chair is complicit in some procurement breach. But we will not sit here and go delve too much into those matters because we don't have the full picture.
Absolutely.
But by what stretch of the imagination is that? We know the way publicly companies are run in this country. There's a management of the company that's responsible for the day-to-day running of the company. There's a board that's basically oversees that activity. So now if you go to a board meeting, whatever that is said there, the minutes are now used as evidence to prove your culpability that you are in bed with a certain company. Is that how we are stretching the law now?
You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, so just looking at what this whole thing is about, it's frivolous and it's neither here nor there. It's obvious that he's not happy about how much Paul has been dealing with him on his show and his handling of other issues.
No,
Come on.
I'm telling you the emotion, the sentiment of a lot of Ghanaians out there. I don't know if you've been looking on social media. So I'm telling you what the people think is going on and what I also believe is going on.
Well, I've read contrary things to that, but just
yeah. So you can also talk about the contrary things that you've read to that. But it looks very clear that what is, because we've not even seen the attack or the persecution of the board chair has been more rabid and more intense than even the MD. We haven't even seen the MD being called for this matter. The person who eventually would have signed this document and would have overseen the contracts, we've not seen anything. It's the board chair that you are chasing up and down the country.
Well, he was just invited. He's been released now.
I'm just saying, like it's all going to joining a chain of, if you want to say, evidence in the looking at the conduct of the OSP. It's becoming very questionable, and people are wondering what is going on there. I don't see how we are continuing to countenance this. And if this is how people expect, I was quite pleased with the way my other co-panelists were going, but that's the only way they will go about it as speaking for the current administration or on those lines. That's how you go. That's okay. Let's change the system, because even they know what is going on. It's indefensible. So all you can say is that, okay, then if it's the system that is bad, let's change it. But the truth is that if we don't, as a people, decide that maybe this is the time that we stop this nonsense, let's allow things to happen the way they are, then it will continue. And I don't think we all want to live in a society where this person comes and you persecute, you leave, then there's another same thing. When we could have been using the resources of the country in a way that brings progress, when we could have been doing something more serious with our time.
Well, we need to recover to be able to get the resources to run the country.
Of course, I do not dispute that. But when it starts to look like that is not what is happening, and that you are just running all over the place, desperately trying to find somebody to hang something on, that's where we draw the line. If it looked like a legitimate drive to recover some loot in this particular contract, from what I have seen from Manasseh's document that you were alleging, not a cent has been paid. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. So what are you going to recover? A hope of future money that would have been lost.
The procurement breaches.
Yes. So but your question was that we are trying to recover, and I'm asking you that I'm telling you that in this case there has not even been proven that there's anything to recover. So why are we expending so much energy on this? It just goes to show how frivolous the whole matter and the whole enterprise is. And how, as a country, as a people, we should have better things to do with our time. Nobody is against the prosecution of people, recovering loot, as you want to call it. To me, that whole gimmick by the NDC is just a scam. We'll talk about that one later. Nobody is against having very robust government systems that prevent corruption. In fact, I think that is the way for us to go. Make it so difficult. There's so much oversight that people are not able to essentially steal from their offices. But when you come out and you want to use that as your only means of campaign, because that's what the NDC did indeed, they are the only way they are ever able to win power, either by saying everybody is a thief, picking a gun and shooting people for power. When they want to do it,
what does that mean?
The first time they came in, the PNDC era, is to call everybody, the system is corrupt, you pick a gun, cool, then you are in government. The next time you do it by word of mouth, a lot of propaganda, these people are thieves, blah, 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 vote them out, they come and then they are in a mess, they don't know what they are doing. It's the same thing. And to be able to prove the narrative you sold to the people to win power, then you go around doing all of these things when the true picture on the ground might not be that. The true picture might not be that everybody was a thief and that everybody stole. In fact, how is that the more plausible solution or the more plausible explanation for the last 5-8 years, that everybody was a thief? Is that what we are saying? That is more that sounds like a more reasonable thing than that it was propaganda that was being used against us. So let's put all of that aside. I'm hoping that as a people we can get to a place where we are now looking at how both political parties, how we can move the country forward. What are the things we can do so that we become an economy where the standard of living is so high that people do not want to travel out. But not every day you a thief. I mean, are we not tired of that?
Right. Thank you very much.
Just a quick comment.
Okay, before I go to Mr. Ibrahim.
It is quite sad to hear my dear sister talk the way she's talking. I would like a situation where we take the politics out. We spend how much for the National Cathedral? Have we seen anything? Can we not say corruption was in there? Can we not say?
We haven't been able to prove it. So you can't say that corruption was there. And that's the propaganda.
Wait.
People
Wait. So if we haven't been able to prove it, let's wait for this case to go to court and let the court ascertain, and not sit on media houses and try and judge it. I don't want to go into the facts of the case. I have information here. I'm not going to read it.
What information is that? What information is that?
The procurement issues.
Right. From the Ghana Airports Company.
From the procurement issues.
Regarding Evertex.
What we're talking about, the procurement issues. And I'm not going to go into it till it goes to court. Let the court decide. Because I'm not interested in commenting on things that might not be there or might be there. The court is the rightful place for this thing to go to. With the National Cathedral, the court is the rightful place for it to go to. As we sit and we talk and we put certain perspective in people's minds, we could be absolutely wrong.
No, now we know
absolutely wrong.
So you understand that saying the National Cathedral was corruption?
No.
Right.
You're not listening to me. Wait. Doc shouldn't just pick things I'm saying. Right. Okay. Take the entirety of what I'm saying. It could be an if or a but. But where I stand, let the case go to court. And let us see that the evidence that is produced in court can either find the person guilty or find the person innocent.
Right. Period. You're still listening to the forum here on Asaase Radio 99.5 in Accra.
Interesting.
We're also live on Facebook on Asaase Radio 99.5, and of course our other affiliates, Asaase Radio 100.3 in Cape Coast, 99.7 in Tamale, and yes, 98.5 in Kumasi. You're doing the listening, and so therefore do share your comments with the rest of the world. And also, we're also live on the internet at www.asaaseradio.com. You can also listen to us and contribute to the show. Doc, I'll come back to you. Please indulge me. Let me come to Mr. Ibrahim. Mr. Ibrahim, you've heard from Nii, and you've also heard from Dr. Amoakoh. She thinks that this is a political witch hunt. How the investigative bodies are conducting their work. Nii, before he left, made a point that it's time for reform. You are a lecturer, and you have been saying the Constitution. I think it's safe to say that every time. Would you recommend some judicial review when it comes to how the Office of the Special Prosecutor has to go about its duties? Because again, people have raised concerns of the office overstepping its bounds when it comes to corruption and corruption-related activities, especially what the NPP describe as, prosecution or persecution of political opponents.
Thank you very much. Yes, I've duly listened to Nii, and I actually disagree with him. Nii, instead of dealing with this particular issue, he's talking about it like the law is inadequate or the law is not properly organized in some places. I disagree with him. We have enough law in the form of the Constitution itself, especially Chapter 5 of the 1992 Constitution, as well as the common law. If you look at countries like the United Kingdom or Canada, most of their laws are not in the form of act. So you can say the act dates back 1960, it has not been reformed, and therefore that is a source of the problem.
But what we have now is a uniform framework.
Britain mostly is governed by the common law. The common law is not organized in one place. They get bits and pieces of the various conventions as well as the cases they put together, and everybody know their line. So for me, this is a problem of an individual who is not actually applying the law and who is not exercising their discretion properly. And as we rightly said, Article 296 is very clear. Even if you are asked to exercise your discretion, this is the way you have to go about it. Your exercise of discretion is not unfettered. In other words, it's under control. And as I said, the common law is very clear in the Winesbury and reasonableness test, or sometimes we call it irrationality. If a decision maker is asked to make a decision, the decision doesn't have to be so irrational that no reasonable person could have looked at the evidence and come to the same conclusion. So it's very clear. It's not the absence of law. And Chapter 5 of the 1992 Constitution is very, very clear. There is presumption of innocence, and strong presumption of innocence suggests that individuals have got the right to bail. And as I said earlier, Martin Table number 2 made it very clear that every crime is bailable, regardless of what you are accused of. So in other words, the Supreme Court had the opportunity to clarify the right to bail, that every crime. And if you say that the individual has to bring 2 landed property before they can get bail, it simply tells us that only the rich will get bail in Ghana. In other words, it is not only that every crime is bailable, but only certain individual can get bail, but others may not be able to get bail. So for me here is a problem of the special prosecutor not exercising his discretion properly and not following the law properly. If you look at the way the law have applied over the years, as I said, there's presumption of innocence and the right to get bail. And there are only 3 instances whereby the prosecution might object to bail. One of them, that if there is an evidence that you are not likely to attend the next hearing or the next meeting if you are given an appointment, or if you are going to commit further offenses on bail, or if you are likely to interfere with witnesses or otherwise obstruct the course of justice. In the absence of these 3, generally you cannot refuse bail. In the case of Paul, it seemed to be that they want to secure his attendance, or if he failed to attend, then they are likely to make recovery. But it doesn't matter whose access, who owns the access. They could either be Paul access or somebody else access. So why are you insisting that he should provide his own access to landed properties? So for me here, the problem has to do with the special prosecution. And as I said, I've always defended the special prosecution. I've had the opportunity of having a chat with Good Morning Ghana as well as TV3 when they had petitioned for him to be impeached. That corruption is difficult to fight, and we need to give him some room to make small mistakes. In these instances, these are not minor mistakes. Right. These are serious mistakes that talks to his competency. So here is not the absence of the law. Yes, we can talk about reforming the law on bail in future. But in this instance, when you are talking so much about reforming the law, you are more or less trying to excuse him. There's no excuse in this particular area. And those of you, if you say you are an NDC member or whatever member, I can see that Paul said both MPP and NDC members have called him to sympathize with him. But if you say that if they now move from bring access to just why it doesn't matter whose access. To the individual should bring your own access. Then what we are really building, regardless of party, we have to be afraid. It means that anybody at all can be detained for a very long period. And the presumption of innocence would then just be a worthless constitutional principle, because it will not work it. If they have to say that bring your own assets because you can get a reprieve, it means everybody in Ghana, including those in power now. If you think because you are in power, they may make few calls, and then you will not be the condition might not be imposed on you. Wait till after 4 or 8 years or whichever period you are no longer in power. The same thing you are advocating might come back to visit you. So for me, the special prosecutor is not applying the rule of law properly. If you apply the rule of law properly, you will know that yes, you have some executive power to exercise, but the rule of law requires you to take into consideration Chapter 5 of the 1992 Constitution. The two things need to be balanced, and you have to find out why do we need the state in the first place? To safeguard the liberty of the individual. So you do not exercise your powers in vain. You have to exercise it, having regard to individual liberty and freedom and rights. In this particular instance, I believe the special prosecutor have more or less pushed the law to one side, and he's pursuing his personal interests. And everybody, as Dr. Amoakoh said, if you go to social media, Paul have done a lot of programs about the special prosecutor.
And so you think that the special prosecutor was using the probe as payback time, right?
Yes, I mean, you can look at what he's asking. Yes, one can easily conclude that.
Right. I'll come back to you, Ibrahim, for the last round for this topic.
What is he doing at home?
Thank you.
Well, supposed to be here. What's he doing at home?
And of course, Enoch Afoakwa, he's also joining us via Zoom for the conversation. I've seen a deluge of comments coming on Facebook about the show. Stephen, Kwesi JC says, let's record everything that Mr. Jantuah is saying today. I can bet my last peswa. One day when power changes hand and a similar thing happens, you hear what Mr. Jantuah will sing a different song. Kwesi comes back to say, is Mr. Jantuah not aware that, a lot of comments from Mr. Jantuah say, Nii Kpakpo, and this is coming from Lee Tekpo, says, so Nii Kpakpo and Jantuah defending this OSP bail terms. Tell him next time when the table tanks will demand a pregnant woman with 5 kids.
Mr. Host,
okay.
Mr. Host, point of order. What have I defended here?
I've even lost my train of thought for this comment. And Christopher Abe says that why is the SML being targeted and tarnished? This is Ghanaian business and a Ghanaian company. We need to stop collapsing our own companies. I'm not sure anybody is trying to tarnish the image of SML. They are just probing what could be corruption-related activities with its operations. And you see with more comments, so many things on Mr. Jantuah. Please just go straight to the point. And for clarity and flow, keep your comments sweet and straight to the point so that we can all read and understand. Now, I want to go to Mr. Afoakwa. There was this comment that was posted by the board chair of our very own Asaase Company Limited. Let me just fish for the comments that I need us to react to quickly before. So this comment was made on X, formerly of Twitter, by the board chair of Asaase Company Limited, Gabi Asari-Ochridako, and he says there is controversy over the huge sums being set with bail conditions, particularly for corruption cases in Ghana currently. Interestingly, those questionable conditions are not usually set by the courts, but rather by investigative bodies. It is as if they are using bail terms to detain suspects rather than to deter them from absconding. There is no principle in law that surety value must match the alleged amount stolen or defrauded, or it must be sufficient to secure attendance and compliance. That is all. That is why courts emphasize risk management over equivalence. A bail amount should not be so high as to amount to de facto detention, and it says, i.e. setting bail so high the defendants cannot possibly pay. Now, setting bail amounts and sureties come with wide discretion, but they must be exercised not arbitrarily. Now, the overriding consideration is ensuring the defendant's attendance at trial and protecting the integrity of the proceedings, not matching bail to the alleged loss or theft. So that was the reflection of Gabriel Asare Ochredakun, our board chair here at Asaase Radio, about the high amount that bail conditions tend to, come across. That's a really salient point. Let me come to you, Enoch. It looks like now the investigative bodies are, imposing bail when the courts are supposed to be doing that. And given the circumstances under which these bail conditions are granted, very worrying, especially the amount, which many have seen as punitive. Meanwhile, bail is not supposed to be punitive or punishable.
Why are all of them on, what do you call it?
Enoch.
They should be here in the...
Enoch, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, I did a reaction to that.
Enoch, what are you doing there? You should be in studio.
because you are not taking good care of me. I'm unable to attend to studio discussions because of my circumstances.
Oh, really? I don't know your circumstances.
All right, Enoch, I've just read the reflections of private legal practitioner and of course our board chair here, Gabriel Asare Ochredakun, on the bail amount being set so high that accused persons are not able to meet those conditions.
Yeah, certainly.
We seem to be having
questionable.
Okay. We seem to be having some delay with your feed.
Law enforcement agencies feel that the accused persons or the suspects are unable to meet. It means that they are withholding bail as a form of pre-trial, as a form of punishment. That is a pre-trial detention as a form of punishment against the suspects that they are holding. That is to say that they are using their discretionary powers to settle personal scores. It is not the practice of law, because once you feel that you have evidence to be able to prosecute and to secure the conviction and sentencing of the suspect that you are holding, why you unnecessarily keep him behind, keep him in custody unreasonably in setting up such onerous bail conditions that you feel that the suspect is unable to meet, and that because the suspect is unable to meet those conditions, then the suspect will continue to be lavishing in detention. You see, pursuant to Article 14.3 of the 1992 Constitution, the Constitution clearly put an injunction on the duration on which law enforcement agencies can hold suspects in lawful custody. The law states clearly that a person arrested, restricted, or detained should be put before court or within 48 hours. The caveat is within 48 hours. The law never said after 48 hours. The law never said that you can set your own bail conditions, and when the person is unable to meet same, you can then have lawful grounds of keeping the person in lawful custody. So, with these onerous bail conditions that they say they are certain, in order to keep suspects in custody, makes the said detentions unlawful detention. I have maintained and continue to maintain this, that once it surpasses the 48 hours and the suspects are not arraigned before any court of competent jurisdiction, then the detention, the arrest, and onward detention then becomes unlawful, which infringes on the rights, the fundamental rights of the person or of the suspect that you are holding. Clearly, under this regime or under this administration, we have seen grave human rights violations against persons arrested, restricted, and detained. You can name them. Bernard Nkibosiako suffered same over a week in custody. Mr. Hanan suffered same over 2 weeks in custody. His wife, other members, and now they have veered into the arena of the fourth estate of the realm, journalists. Paul Adom-Otchere, because he is the foremost critique of this administration. Then they say, let's show him some pepper. Let's show him that we have the power. Let's show him that we can restrict, we can take his liberty away from him. And that for the first time I am hearing that a person in detention is asked to provide a landed property in his name to stand as surety for himself. Although he has not been granted self-recognizance bail, this is alien to the criminal jurisprudence of our country. And I believe that persons like Martin Pebu, human rights activists like Sosu, who is now a member of the General Legal Council, a board member of the General Legal Council, a member of the board of the General Legal Council, and so should begin to be speaking. Their voices ought to be heard. And my learned uncle, Kwame Jantuah's voice needs to be heard in this instant, because this is a grave violation against the rights of ordinary citizens. Justice Doche, in one of his decisions, his reasoning in is it Prince Augustus, a high court decision, said that the state with all its resources should not be allowed to put the lives of ordinary citizens in danger. And in unlawful detentions of this magnitude, we are allowing the state with all its vast resources to put the lives of ordinary persons like Bernard Nkibosiako, Paul Adom-Otchere, Hanan, etc., into jeopardy. And we should not allow this to fester. I did. They are there,
right,
to ensure that yes, people follow due process of the law, but you cannot be hauling people before the law, and you yourself will be breaching procedures of the law. It is not done in a civilized country. You see, let me say that
30 seconds for me, please, Richard.
Yes, let me remind law enforcement agencies and officers of the law that if they have forgotten that Justice Afre in the Republic versus Ibrahim Adam copiously stated that superior orders cannot suffice as a defense to criminal liability. Once you are enforcing the law and you are breaching the law yourself, you should know that one day you'll be held accountable.
Right, Enoch, thank you very much for your thoughts on this.
Your own deeds, as far as is concerned. Okay. And that superior orders, nobody is interested in who ordered you to do what. But once you breach the law, then you face the...
Right, Enoch, thank you very much for your submission on the last round on this particular issue. Let's turn our attention to Bawku, because there are some disturbances there.
You didn't let me have my 1 minute.
Okay, just
it's less than
1 minute.
It's
1 minute.
Short.
Okay.
I just have one very short thing to tell our friends in the NDC. That when it comes to throwing allegations around, and especially last year, and saying whatever they wanted to say, they didn't wait for these matters to be investigated or to be put before the law courts for the truth to come out, but they threw around so many accusations, some that have already come out to be proven false, but now they want to change their tone. And we are going to keep all these recordings and voices of what they are saying, what Nii Kpakpo is saying now, how they are going about all these issues, so that eventually when the tables turn, and I don't even think we in the MPP are going to engage in that kind of vendetta. But for the fringe elements that take it upon themselves to teach people lessons, we'll come back and hope that Nii Kpakpo maintains the same stance, and that Uncle Kwame Jantuah also maintains the same stance he's maintaining this morning, because I was just hoping we'll get to a point where all of this will stop. But if they don't want it to stop, I mean, history will tell them that we can both play.
Right. Thank you very much. I was saying that we have to turn to our next topic on the table. We have to go to Bawku because there are renewed clashes there, including student fatalities. We've seen the response from government to evacuate candidates from the conflict zone under curfew. We also know that they've imposed curfew at the moment and also deployed military forces there to guarantee and quell possible reprisal attacks in Bawku. But on the back of that, WASSCE begins next week, and students in Bawku, unfortunately, have their futures hanging in a balance. It's quite uncertain what they will be able to do. Are they going to be given equal opportunities like students in Accra who haven't experienced any conflicts to go through this crucial exams? These are questions we want to be asking. Now, Mr. Jantuah, I want to begin with you on this particular one. Bawku crisis. I mean, I'm not too old, but I came to meet it. This cyclical conflict, which is deep rooted in chieftains' intentions. Why have we not been able as a country to, end this once and for all?
Is it only chieftaincy? Is there no?
Well, largely.
Is there no politics undermining it? Right from the word go, from independence. Really and truly, I don't understand it. Because at the current moment, it's coming down south, isn't it?
Mm.
What happened in Asaase? Wasn't somebody killed because of the Bawku crisis? So if we all sit and feel that, it's only Bawku, is in the north, we don't have anything to do with it, then we are shooting ourselves in the foot. We are cutting our nose to spite our faces. Whatever crisis happens in this country concerns all of us. And really and truly, Otumfuo was able to solve the Dabon crisis, wasn't he? So there has to be political commitment to solve the challenges of Bawku. What is a country if everywhere is developed and a certain part is in crisis, is in war, is in fighting? The country is unstable because there is a possibility that whatever is happening in that enclave of the disturbance can come down into other parts of the country. So there needs to be commitment there to solve it. If it's chieftaincy, and yes, chieftaincy has played a huge role in it, why can't the two parties that has got to do with this chieftaincy, why can't they find peace? If it's supposed to be one person or one family being a chief and the next family not being it, can't they interchange? Look, when you go to Menchia, there are about 3 houses in Menchia, if not 4, who can be Asantehene. 3. And they rotate. It rotates between the houses. Opokuware is from my side. What do you call it? Osetutu, I think is from the Prempe side. So, they interchange with time. Why can't that be the same with the North? Something has to happen and something has to give. Because you see, the people in that part of the country also need development. I have said, and I'll continue to say, we need a national development plan for the North and North alone to open up that area. Can you imagine if we have been able to develop the North to be the breadbasket of this country? Can you imagine the kind of businesses and the kind of monies that would come into that part of the country? Because you see, it's the last bastion of opening up into the other parts of West Africa. And to make even matters much even better, Ghana has 2 ports. We have Takrady and we have Tema, which they can come down south. The landlocked countries can come down south because we have a vibrant northern area who come down south with their goods and use our ports. Today, there are tankers that come in from, when I say tankers, I mean tankers that take refined petroleum products, come in from the landlocked countries down into our country to take refined petroleum products. And most of it right now is taken from Bupe back into the other parts of West Africa. Isn't that bringing money into our system? Isn't that making us more richer? Isn't that bringing foreign exchange into our system? So there has to be political commitment on all sides, on the chiefs, on the people, and government to solve this Bawku crisis. Because really and truly, I don't see why chieftaincy should kill people. Students are that. I don't see why.
Especially when they have the exams
especially
next week.
Is it only especially when they have the exams? Especially when they have to live every day. People have to work every day in that area. People have to go to their farms every day in that area. So I don't think we should politicize it. It's a national issue where all of us need to sit and bring this thing to fruition. Parliament has a huge responsibility in terms of parliamentarians. And parliamentarians, I don't only talk about parliamentarians who come from that side, but Parliament as a house has to come together and help sort the matter. If it's chieftaincy, can it not be solved? And what is the problem? That one gate is supposed to be chief and one gate is not supposed to be chief. Is that what the problem is? I don't see it. There has to be political commitment on all sides to sort this particular crisis out, because it's not helping the country.
Let me bring in Richard Kumadoe, Security Intelligence Consultant, on this discussion. Richard, many thanks for your time. A very good morning and welcome to the forum. Richard, can you hear me? A very good morning to you. Richard, can you hear me? Well, it looks like we don't have Richard on the phone. Dr. Amoakoh, let me come to you. Richard will be joining us very soon. He's a security intelligence consultant. We want to find out if there is a security failure. Why haven't there been, a long-term security plan to help quell the situation? Richard Kumadoe, many thanks for your time. Good morning.
Thank you. Your line is very far.
Oh, can you hear me now? I'll try and speak.
Okay, it's somehow better. We can go.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. We're back to talking about Bawku crisis again, which has resulted in closure of schools in that community and its environ. WASSCE begins tomorrow and students are being evacuated. It's really unclear if they're going to have equal opportunities like their counterparts in Accra. This issue with Bawku, is it a security failure? Why haven't we been able as a country fashion out a holistic long-term security plan to quell disturbances in Bawku?
Okay, so if I understand you properly, what it means is that there are various components of what is happening in Bawku in relation to the conflict. When it comes to public safety challenges and security lapses, which leads to killings and destruction of property, then you will want the security agencies to be on top of their job. But until you resolve the underlying factors or the root causes of many of these things we have changed, you are not going to get the results. And that is why it dies off and it comes back again. So we will need to approach it from the double side of it, where we have our chieftaincy, our ethnicity, our cliency, and land ownership converging into what we call traditional issues and cultural issues. Those are the core issues fueling the Bawku conflict. So once you are dealing with the public safety challenges, you will need to deal with that side of the equation. And that is where we have failed right from the days of independence to where we are now. I think it is time for a new strategy, it is time for new thinking, and it is time for new ways of handling this conflict. So that we will stop the killings and we will stop people from fleeing the area and peace will resume back to Bawku. Until we are able to do that, the measures to resolve the safety challenges and the public safety lapses and the security, whatever it is, it's also posing a major threat to the state. And it's creating high levels of risk to people who live in Bawku and the environment. My view is that we haven't done so well with it, and we will need to look at it again.
Clearly, we have to look at the issues. But again, I wanted to find out from you why we've not been able to draw a plan, a long-term security plan, because government has deployed the military over there. Curfews have been imposed. And the concerns that have been raised is that this is not enough. It just looks like we are containing the flame, but we don't have like a proper long-term plan to deal with this once and for all.
I think it means that we need to look at the approach again, and we will need to revise the strategy we have used in the Bawku conflict in resolving it. And we will need to look at the methodologies again. I think they are not giving us the right results. And that is why we keep on running into the place and we are not getting the right results. What has happened is that we have not been able to classify Bawku, whether we are at war with one another or we are at conflict with one another, or it's just a high risk area or a hostile environment. These are all determinations that have security officers to plan security operations. What we have done recently with the deployment of the 400 and so military officers into the area is that there has been a new security risk assessment that shows that the risk levels have moved from minimum to medium high. And the threat to the state has gone up a little bit gradually, drastically. In so doing, you will need to sanitize the environment, you will need to clean risk levels very low. And I believe that is why the military is there. But these are early days yet. You will need to watch it for a week or 2 or 3 or 4 to be able to have a review and see whether we are achieving the cardinal results of sending military officers there. Other than that, I can tell you, from all these years we have monitored Bawku, there's a need for a new approach, there's a need for a new methodology, and we need to revise the strategy we have used for all these years that did not give us the results. One of the cardinal issues that is fueling this Bawku conflict is the use of social media. How clean have we cleaned up our social media space? How effective has the Cyber Security Authority cleaned up the social media space? Then again, you can link it to what we call them conflict-related personalities, their actions and inactions. These are people who carry anxiety and fear, and they are afraid they will die or people around them will be killed. And it makes them to behave in a manner that is not normal. We will need to carry them along. These are people who live among us. Then you also have politicians getting in there to put up behaviors that do not look right. And these are all the undertones we will need to look at, considering the new approach in recruiting many more people into Bawku in terms of security to deal with insecurity lapses at Bawku.
Right. I'll come back to you and find out if the deployment by the government in the area is supposed to guarantee some safety for students. But Dr. Amoakoh, let me come to you. Many have also described the disturbances in Bawku as political stalemates. They say it's not only rooted in chieftaincy disputes, and they pin the blame on you politicians. When the NPP is in government, you find the NDC accusing it of not handling Bawku the right way. We need a holistic approach, like Mr. Jantuah said, everybody around the table to be able to discuss the issue. What are some of the issues you have with this government handling of Bawku? Because you have been critical and said the measures instituted by the government is not enough to quell the disturbances. What are those?
Yeah, I find it very interesting that now everything that the NDC did when they were in opposition, they want to take the high road on and say, let's not politicize it. I also think it would be quite unfair for me to sit here and pretend like this is the first time political interference has entered this crisis. I think this conflict predates all of us. It's existed before we were born, probably even before our great-grandparents were born. It's before independence, and it's something that always seems to evolve with the times to take on a different tone. I have always maintained that it's about time we find ways to restore lasting peace. Again, we also cannot let down the facts and how this current escalation probably came about. We cannot discount the contributions of the current government to this current escalation and to how they try to play very dirty politics with it, especially getting to the tail end of last year. Just because, looking on the face of the matter, they found that our candidate for the election belonged to one of the factions. I think even here, it came up somewhere last year. And again, I wish we could go back and find what Nii Kpakpo and co said at that time. You know, and to me, I'm just going to try to maintain the same posture I had at that time, which was that this is very delicate. This is something that we shouldn't play politics with. It's not a propaganda bait. Let's try to leave certain issues out of our politicking because we easily make it worse. But no, that's not what our friends in the NDC did. They went there, said all manner of things. And as the days go by, now people call and they are telling you what was said. They are sending you videos of what's the campaign that these people went there to go and do. And now basically the chickens have come home to roost. They are no longer a trusted party in the interaction that's going up there. Because if you go to one party and you tell them that, look, all the problems you are suffering is because the other party has somebody in government who is the vice president. So vote for me. When I come, everything will be fine. And now the government changes, and now you are the chief gentleman. You are running the affairs of the country, and things are degenerating. You lose the trust of the people that were even your allies in the past. And that is what has happened. Most of them have come out to publicly lambast the NDC, to publicly lambast the president on the way these actions are being managed. So I'm very worried because the government has lost the trust of the people of Bawku. They never, by the way they were handling things last year.
You mean successive governments?
No, I think this particular one we are talking about today, the NDC government has obviously lost the trust of the people of Bawku. I'm sure you saw the interviews that were granted by even the Cusack faction of all of it on, I think, Wednesday, Friday. They've been granting a lot of.
Your party was in power for 8 years and you still couldn't file the disturbances.
I just told you this is a 200-year-old issue. I just told you that.
So you can't,
so I think you missed a lot of my submission where I admitted that it would be very insane for me to sit here and pretend like this thing just happened and no government has played a part. But it is also very disingenuous for us to forget that this particular escalation has the NDC's blueprint all over it. And that is what I went on to explain, that they went to one faction and used the fact that our flag bearer belonged to the other to campaign. Now that the government has changed and they are in power, the people expected so much more from them. Expectations they have not been able to meet, and so they have lost the trust of the people. It's as simple as that. And this is not just coming from me. There's so many that they've granted so many interviews. That's just how frustrated the people of Bawku are. They've granted very public interviews. Even NDC constituency executives in those constituencies have come out to grant interviews to express their frustration at the situation. It is a situation that is degenerating very quickly, that I hope we can come together as a people to call for peace or reach some compromise. Because if we leave this to the government that has already lost good faith with them, have already lost the trust of the people, I don't see us making progress. With the matter of the students and their BEC and all of that, because that was actually the question you asked me, I saw that the former CEO of it was a Get Fund, right? Dr. Tando was talking about an emergency plan, something like that by GAS. I haven't looked into it too much, but I hope it's something that they can put in place so that at least they can sit for the exams. But you can just imagine the mental state of these students. How have they even been able to prepare adequately, looking at the circumstances and situations they find themselves in? And all of this because of how irresponsible some people wanted to behave. I just it's a very sad situation. But I do hope that even in their own the big pot of mess they've created for themselves, they are able to create a little reprieve for these students to be able to write their exam, because indeed education is usually what would get a lot of people out of tough situations. You're able to educate yourself, you make something out of yourself in life, and then probably the field becomes a little less relevant to you. So if that also becomes curtailed, you've also just created another group of warriors or fighters to feed the fighting mill. So I think, especially with the education matter, we really have to lean on the various education, the Ministry of Education and the various agencies to come up with a way to make sure.
Do you think that government has failed? I mean, they could have evacuated the students long time ago.
Yeah, that's what I was
just
talking
days.
about. I saw, and this was the former Get Fund boss talking about that there's an emergency. There's basically like a contingency plan for things like this that are supposed to be implemented when things like this happen. And I think he did say it had been triggered or it had been started. So I think it's something we need to follow up on and keep an eye on, because they've already dropped the ball so hard on the crisis. Let them not drop the ball on the future of these people.
Right, let them not drop the ball on the future of these people. Now, let me go to Ishaq Ibrahim, lecturer at University of Professional Studies here in Accra, the law school. Ibrahim, is it about time we turn to the courts in, the resolution of the disturbances in Bawku? Are the legal institutions in this country fit for purpose when it comes to dealing with the disturbances and the fallout from the crisis?
I must admit that when it comes to Bawku, it's a very sensitive issue. It's particularly sensitive to me because I don't claim to be completely neutral in this particular case, because I've acted, as I've been a lecturer in the law school, I'm also a legal practitioner. And I happen to practice, I'm one of the lawyers for one of the sides. So it's a very sensitive matter. Let me make it very clear that, yes, the issue, I think there are two main issues we have in Bawku. And who owns the land and who has the right to rule. I think this is what the Ashanti mediation is looking at. Who owns Bawku and who has the right to rule. And for me, there are two rights that are engaged here. The Kusasi, I believe, have the right to self-determination. And this right is recognized under international law. So I don't claim to deny they have the right to self-determination. The Mamprisi equally have the right to self-preservation. And any mediator or somebody try to bring these two factions, we need to recognize these two rights. And the question would then be, how best can we balance this right? Somebody right to self-determination, other people right to self-preservation. So before Ghana had independence, the Mamprisi have always ruled the place. If you look at the ancestral land, if you look at the Moldagbani history, when Mamprisi first arrived in Ghana, the place they settled was called Pusiga. A Pusiga in the Mamprisi language simply means under a particular, the name of a particular tree. I don't know the name of the tree in English, but Pusiga is a fruit-bearing tree. And this is how they name it, Pusiga. And it is known both the Bani, Mamprole, and that of Nanom. This is the name for that particular tree. And after some time, various people make some movement. Mamprisi claim they founded Bawku. And for this reason why the name Bawku is a Mamprisi name, meaning a valley. Now, but then if you listen to the Kusasi language and the Mamprisi language, these two languages are too close that it's either they have been living together for very long, or perhaps there's a common ancestry. And recently, as you know, there have been so much intermarriages between these two groups. You can see the prominent Kusasi people like Hassan Ayarega, who will tell you, my mother is a Mamprisi. If you look at Osman Ayarega, he will tell you my mother too is a Mamprisi, though my father is a Kusasi. The majority leader in parliament, Mama Yaraga, who will tell you my mother is a Mamprisi, my father is a Kusasi. And likewise, if you go to the Mamprisi side, you hear people saying my mother is a Kusasi. So regardless of whatever happened, this is a tragic conflict, and it embarrasses me as somebody who is coming from that part of the world that we cannot simply resolve this issue. And why are we not able to resolve it? Yes, there has been political interference. And I'm sad to say that the interference comes from both sides, or lack of political appetite to really resolve the issue. We use it to play politics, depending on whether we'll get votes or not. And Nkrumah started it by telling the Nayiri that, look, if you don't come out openly to support me and you want to be with the Northern People's Party, I am going to get Kusasi get their independence from you. And that is how the genesis of the problem started, I believe. I've had the opportunity of reading the literature, some of the documentation that are presented before the Ashanti. I've had the opportunity of reading them, the delegation of the Nayiri to the UN General Assembly, even encouraged by the then British, because this side traditionally were not part of the Gold Coast, and they wanted it to be part of the Gold Coast. So, and then the more recent one that Dr. Amoakoh was talking about, the NDC have milked it seriously. You hear John Mahama himself, President Mahama, making it very clear that whenever NPP is in power, the conflict in Bawku resurrects and even inflame. And that when I come to power, I'll resolve it. I've heard him rather uncomfortably promising Kusasi that when I come to power, I'm going to create a region for you. Maybe stop there. But he made reference to the fact that Northeast region is smaller than this part of your country, and yet Northeast region have a region, which is even factually wrong. The Northeast region is far bigger than the Bawku, Zibila, and East environment combined together. But when you say that, you make reference to the Northeast region, I believe was very, very insensitive, because 80% of the Mamprisi live in the Northeast region. Even though it is not just a region for the Northeast region, when you look at the nature of Northeast region, there are Mamprisi there, Kokombes, Chakosis, and various other groups that are found over there. But when you say that you as a statesman, you become insensitive to the issue, because you are promising them that a Mamprisi person who happens to be the vice president have created a regime for their people. And therefore, I am your man. Vote for me. And as Dr. Amoakoh said, if you see some of the protesters, it's as if they are disappointed on the government, because this is a promise that you have given to us. We want you to start realizing those promises. Redeem them. If you listen to what they are saying, the NDC chairman for Pusiga, you see him telling the MDC that, look, if you do not give us some of these promises you gave to us, we are going to resign in our numbers. Unfortunately, people like Mahama Yaraga could have been much more careful, because if I'm in your situation where my mother is a Mamprisi, my father is a Kusasi, you will take this thing to be a very sensitive issue. And you always have to give a reconciliatory tone. But if you listen to him, he doesn't. Because he said even in Parliament that the Bawku there was no issues in Bawku until 2001 when President Kufuor came to power. And that President Kufuor allowed Bawku to become an issue again. And that when Akufo Addo came to power, the situation became worse. But he was lying. It's factually not true. Because if you listen after the Nkrumah's moving the chieftaincy from the Mamprisi to the Kusasis, when Afrifa and Nko came, they also moved it back to the Mamprisis. And then when Rollins came in, Rollins moved it back to the Kusasis. And Rollins' time, there had always been agitation to perform funerals and to go to Nayiri for new and scheming. And you have used political power to suppress them. Look, for me, the way we have been resolving it, I believe it lacks legitimacy.
Right.
Politicians are not the right people to resolve this conflict. The court equally is not the right venue to resolve this conflict. What we need to do is to resolve it in a way that has legitimacy. And as I've already said earlier, to achieve legitimacy in resolution of these disputes, we need to recognize the Kusase right to self-determination and the Mamprose right to self-preservation. And I hope that Ashanti is looking at the issue this particular way. Because if you use political power to suppress one side, the issue is not going to die down.
Right.
History tells us it's not going to die down. So resolving it in such a way that the people say that we've all achieved something. And both Mamprose and Kusase, we all need to be prepared to sacrifice something for the sake of peace. Because if we do not sacrifice, our great-grandchildren is going to inherit this problem once it lacks legitimacy. So I believe that Ashanti should critically listen to both sides. And how we resolve it, as I said, the two rights. And I'm not going to propose on TV how they need to resolve it. But then there are certain proposals that have already been put forward to the Ashanti. But if one side is saying that government use power to give us this, it's not going to work.
Right.
History tells us. And the Chinese has a proverb that only fools learn from their mistakes. Other people have made mistakes for us to learn from. Nkrumah made those mistakes. Afrifa came in, Raleigh came in. It's not going to be resolved until legitimacy is achieved.
Well,
and in terms of how the government is handling these current events, I think so far the government is making terrible mistakes. And when we want to comment, they say we are not security experts. Let security experts advise the government. But I am an expert in common sense. And common sense tells me that if you do not take appropriate measure, you are going to spread it. For example, the current curfew in Wale Wale is unnecessary. The curfew in Alelgo is unnecessary. It's a reactionary measure.
And please, just wrap up for me in 30 seconds while I go to
because there's no active conflict in Wale Wale currently. There's no active conflict in Alelgo currently. Mamprose and Kusase in Alelgo and Wale Wale, they are living at peace. There's only criminal elements of people storming schools or roadblocks. Deal with those particular issues. But when you send a large contingent of army in towns, you are going to erupt things because the security might make mistakes. And if they happen to make mistakes against Mamprose, then they will rise up, attack the Kusase within those towns, of which they are not targets. It's just a criminal element. And if there are criminal elements, deal with it. You don't impose a curfew in the whole towns in the name of peace enforcement or whatever nonsense they are calling it.
Let me come to you, Enoch, if you're still on Zoom. I want to find out from you, it seems from the submissions of Ibrahim that legal resolution might not be the solution here at the moment, but we're a country governed by a constitution and laws. How can we enforce the rule of law, especially in the Bawku crisis that, has taken political undertones in what many have even said that there is a political stalemate? Do you agree with him that it should be legitimacy and not legal? Can you hear me?
Fritz, I must admit that the current circumstances of the Bawku crisis need a hybrid method where we balance mediation, conciliation, arbitration with that of the force of law. Because at the end of the day, after arbitration or mediation or whatsoever that we are using, we need to use the alternative dispute resolution approach in resolving the impasse in Bawku. And I believe that that will allow parties in the dispute to be able to vent out their anger, to be able to settle. Once they are able to vent and a resolution is made, the settlement agreement down, now we can place the settlement agreement with the force of law. That will make it a legal document to ensure that there is that level of stability as far as the remedies or the solutions prescribed it. Fritz, what is this Bawku conflict all about? As students and graduates of conflict and peace building, you can only see the triggers of this Bawku conflict, the escalation of the Bawku conflict in recent times, as something which has resulted as a form of demand, because prior to the 2024 general elections, there were some political promises made by the then opposition NDC and its candidates within the Bawku enclave and within the national contest that they were supporting part of the feuding factions. And I'm happy that my learned friend made mention of the fact that the people of Bawku have a right in law under international law by virtue of their right to self-determination. The people of Asaase have a right under international law by virtue of their right to self-determination. And the people of the Mampusi people also have a right under international law by way of self-preservation. As a result of this, once the Asaases are looking for self-determination and political actors, by virtue of their greed to sustain political or to secure political power, make some promises of which they know is untenable, because chieftaincy, there's a constitutional injunction under Article 270 of the 1992 Constitution that clearly even bars Parliament from enacting laws that seeks to outlaw or that seeks to affect the chieftaincy as an institution, than to say that the President of the Republic of Ghana can make a determination to one side, one feuding faction of a chieftaincy dispute. This issue has been there since time immemorial, of which the Mampusis and the Asaases are finding ways of resolving their own impasse. But for the greed of politicians, they made some promises. As a result of the promises made to them, the people are demanding the gains of those promises, because they also provided valuable consideration to aid the said political actors achieve whatever they were looking for, that is political power. You recognize that in 2024, December 2024 general elections, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the then flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, secured some 0 votes in some polling stations within the Kusau areas. What accounted for that? Because the New Patriotic Party had polling station officers across the length and breadth of over 30-something thousand polling stations in this
Enoch?
In this republic, stations within the Kusau areas. It's as a result of the promises made, and now you are unable to make to satisfy those promises. The people are frustrated, leading to the escalation of the conflict in other areas where
we seem to be
the Asaases and the Accra and other areas. We are having escalation of this conflict around the areas. It is about time that this national embarrassment that has bestowed on this nation by virtue of the politicians must apologize to the nation and say that we erred, especially from the President of the Republic of Ghana. He must address the nation and apologize entirely to the people of Ghana that he erred in his campaign promises of making sure that he took a side of the Bawku conflict, and as a result of this, under his reign, the people that he promised are demanding accountability of what promises he made to them as a result of this, and we are all suffering as a result of this. We are spending taxpayers' money. People are dying. That has become a national embarrassment to the people of this country. And I believe that enough should be said to be enough, and that the people of Mampusi and Bawku should give peace the way. I believe that once they have voluntarily offered themselves to the Otumfo Osei-Tutu, the second mediation committee, they must put all hands on deck, and they must put themselves into it and ensure that whatever their demands are, whatever their interest is, they go to Otumfo, they sit with Otumfo and make sure that they all tell their story. This is basically based on what we call traditional evidence. And once traditional evidence is there to guide us, the Supreme Court has copiously made some determinations in Achoro versus Akamfila, where some cardinal precedents have been set. And I believe that in following suit in that decisions, there has been several decisions of the Supreme Court as far as traditional evidences are concerned. In the Asaase 2 affairs and a whole lot of things, there has been some determinations in using traditional life evidence as a form of evidence, because some of the stories that we are being told, I am even hearing for the first time from my learned brother that the Pusiga is the name of a tree, and the story that he has made of, and trying to also tell us that the language spoken by the Bawku people, the Kusasi people, is closer to the Mampuli language and those things. So you could see that in affirming the traditional issues, there must be some determinations and some careful study as to the traditional antecedents of these two groups to be able to make a determination and to be able to ensure that there is lasting peace in Bawku. We need to dissociate politics and extreme partisanship from this matter. This is why the first gentleman of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, together with his leadership of the nation today, should come openly and apologize to the entire nation, including the people of Mampusi, the people of Kusasi, and the Bawku people, so that they all know that the promises that were made to them by politicians is untenable. Because per Article 270 of the Constitution, the president cannot interfere in chieftaincy affairs. Per Article 270, even Parliament cannot enact laws to be able to, as it were, to outlaw chieftaincy as an institution, or to make determination in some instances as far as chieftaincy is concerned that affects chieftaincy itself, the institution of chieftaincy and those kind of things. So if politicians were not guided and made some promises and invaded in certain arena that has created a national embarrassment for us, we should be able to say that, yes, we are sorry, we were wrong, and that the people of Bawku, both the Mampusi and the Kusasi people, should give peace the way and support the mediation approach being undertaken by Otumfuo Osei Tutu II, to be able to ensure that there is lasting peace within the Kusao areas and the Bawku areas, so that the nation, we can all sleep justifiably.
Thank you very much,
Fritz,
Enoch.
Fritz, let me land here. That if you are living in areas where the area is dominated by Kusasi or Mampusi people, then you are also in a state of catharsis, because once there's escalation of this conflict in areas where these ethnic groups are dominated, then certainly that it is not only Bawku that is being affected, like it's happening in Asawase, like it's happening in Tulaku, in Asaiman areas, like it's happening in other areas where we are unable to even mention because of the national security connotations and those things. It is not healthy for this country, and that we must say that enough is enough, and the unnecessary politicking, the unnecessary partisanship, and the unnecessary backbiting is the key that has got us here. Let us revisit the frustration aggression theory. Let us look at the greed theory that has fueled or served as triggers for conflicts around the world, and be able to ensure that political actors act in a manner that will encourage national unity and harmonize the peace that we enjoy as a collective people of this country. And that we have only one Ghana. We cannot begin to divide ourselves. We have intermarried among ourselves. What makes of you that you have a child from Mampusi or a child from Bawku, Kusasi, who, by the dint of this conflict, is gunned down and killed in cold blood and those kind of things? It is not healthy for us, and we must condemn that in all uncertain terms, wherever it is coming from, and make sure that.
Enoch, thank you very much. But let me take the concluding remarks of our security analyst on this very one before we finally turn attention to our last issue on the table. Richard, I want to find out from you. The government has actually deployed the military to Bawku. Does this escalate the conflict? What does it do? Richard, can you hear me? Right, we seem to have lost Richard over there. I wanted to find out from him the rationale behind the deployment of the government having the security or the military go there. Richard, can you hear me?
Please ask the question again.
I want to find out from you. The government has deployed the military and imposed curfew at Bawku at the moment. Does this become as a deterrent, or it actually escalates the tensions over there?
No, curfews are usually short-term measures. It helps security officers to decongest a complicated security situation. So you realize that they always use curfew as a short-term measure. After a day or two or three, once the security officers take their position, making sure that they are in control of the situation, then they review the curfew. This particular curfew looked a little bit harsh from 2 p.m. to 6 a.m. I wasn't surprised it was subsequently reviewed because you have a lot of security officers within the zone. For the presence of the security officers, they are given a specific task to perform. So until they are able to perform the task, you cannot really assess whether they are doing it properly or they are not doing it properly. So we need to give them some time. Other than that, considering the nature of the conflict at Bawku and the exigencies of the time, you will need some level of high-level security operations there. What exactly are you supposed to do? What are the timelines? What are the methodologies? These are things frontline security officers have to determine. And I think with that, if you hear what the leader of the military said, he said they are there to sanitize the place, which also means that if you find yourself at the wrong place at the wrong time, you are likely to feel some level of discomfort and some level of vulnerability. Overall, with curfew and with a huge number of soldiers, people will be scared and there will be some level of apprehension. And so we need to look at it again. What are we supposed to do? Let's do it as a nation. I seriously believe that if we put our feet down and say, this is what we are doing as a national strategy, we should be able to get it done.
Right, thank you very much, Richard. And you're still listening to the forum here on Asaase Radio 99.5. We're also live on Facebook, and I see your comments coming through. At this point, I need to read them. And this is coming from Mohammed. Says, a very good morning to you and your panelists. Please let the OSP know that even J.J. Rawlings, with his military powers, could not stop Paul from speaking the truth to power. And he said he's been watching us on Facebook from Tamale. Eugene Oforiata is Eugene. I've just I'll say honestly, this guy is making the program okay. Then there's this one that says that I think the host should be replaced if he's not ready to read the comments. I'm doing my best, please. Stephen, I'm doing my best to read your comments coming through on the show. We really, really, really appreciate them. Keep them coming through. Now, Nii Kpakpo says that whatever begins in anger ends in shame. The OSP cannot use his office for his personal vendetta. This is pure hatred and envy creeping back into a decent and civilized society by John Mahama and his NDC, who want to gag press freedom. Is pathetic, he adds. And the song says, good morning, Fritz. I'm enjoying the conversation from your panelists. Please kindly wish my lovely wife, Lady Talata, a happy blessed birthday. I'm sure Lady Talata must be listening to the show, and so we send our heartfelt wishes on this birthday to her. Let's turn to our last issue that we call it a wrap here on the forum. Something that has to do with me and my colleagues in the media, assault on journalists. And because sometime this week, there was an alarming incident where uniformed armed forces members, assaulted Joy News journalist Carlos Kaloni while he was doing an interview of one witness who himself was also assaulted without any provocation. This is coming at a time where we don't even know the outcome of investigations into the journalists who were assaulted during the rerun of the Kumadoe parliamentary election. And some 2 weeks or 3 weeks down the line, we wake up to uniformed personnel of the Ghana Armed Forces assaulting a journalist, destroying their camera and hitting them in the neck 2 times. And after that, he was whisked to their headquarters and later released by the personal intervention of the Interior Minister. This is worrying even for me because I know somebody who suffered an attack Latif Idrisu, Joy News journalist, some years ago when the CID arrested Kwame Jantuah at the time, and he sustained injuries to his head. I was in the same class with him at the Ghana Institute of Journalism. He still hasn't recovered from the trauma and from the pains. He's still seeking medical care. And that's the brunt he's suffering at the moment. And so for me, I know firsthand what it feels like, and I've seen somebody who suffered that. And going out to do my duty or say cover a demonstration or a demolition, do I have to be constantly looking over my shoulder because the people who are supposed to ensure my safety are the ones who are visiting this crime on me? So I want us to talk. Do you feel, and let me come to you, Dr. Amoakoh, in the last 6 months, what do you make of press freedom?
All the propaganda taglines they've been saying, I think it just has a different kind of connotation. Indeed, looking at the video is embarrassing, actually, because you can tell that the soldiers are very much aware that they are being recorded, but they don't seem to care. And you'd ask yourself why. I think you've given the perfect background to it. It's because so much has happened and nothing has happened to anybody. If you just look at the videos of Ablekuma North, it just shows how the security agencies have, I don't know if they've just been put into a corner, they've lost their will to act, or what. I still cannot understand. I can't put it into very civil language what could be going on there. Because looking at the videos from Ablekuma, the police are standing outside. They allow a group of thugs to just bust through, go and basically do whatever they want for a few minutes before even trying to intervene. Even what happened to Chris Lloyd outside, even West, that one they were just standing on, and it was only one officer who went out of his way to try and intervene in what was going on. So I don't know. And to all the security agencies and everybody watching, there's just been a change of government. But one thing that people always say, and I also believe is absolutely true, that no matter how long it takes, power will change again.
But again, people have also raised questions with
government.
You left government not too long ago, 6 months ago. Did you prosecute, for instance, the
Are you going to talk about Ayawaso?
I'm not going to talk about Ayawaso. But during the Stop Galamsey protest, we saw how the police dealt with some protesters.
Are you talking about the same Stop Galamsey protest I'm talking about?
Yes.
That I have in my head. If you want us to do that, let's go to Let My Vote Count. And that's what police brutality was. The Galamsey protesters that blocked the road to play soccer on the streets, those that were burning tires.
Those that were picketed at the headquarters of the CID and were manhandled. Regitoto, for instance, was manhandled.
No, are we talking about the same? Are we talking about the same protest? Because I don't know if we're talking about the same protest. A lot of offences were.
I'm also giving you other dimensions.
We're not talking about if the police do anything and it goes above and beyond. Of course, answers should be given. They should answer for it. Not at all. But I'm saying that there's been a consistent chain of events where something happens and nothing is done about it, and so their behavior seems to escalate. So if you want to go and pick at, if we are to go back in history and look at under whose government what happened, I can tell you that I will not end up, MPP would not end up having the being at the butt of that conversation, because all we need to do is go back to Rawlings and the matter is settled. But let's move forward from that. We're in 2025. You said you are going to reset. Things are going to be better, but they are obviously worse. And not even in a tiny way, in a very exaggerated manner, because now the military or national security, and that becomes the question, the people there, were they army, were they national security? Because all the reportage that was coming out was saying that they were national security operatives. They did not even mind that they were being recorded. He just took out his belt and was just lashing the citizen for just existing in an environment. I don't understand what has come of that, because to me that is the gravest offense, and obviously what happened to the journalist, because somebody is just standing there talking and you are lashing him with a belt like he's an animal or you own him, or it just shows a very a huge disregard for the rights of an individual, which I don't think we should countenance. And I'm just hoping that this issue is not just spoken about one weekend and we forget about it, so that they can continue to behave like that.
Right. The president said he's going to hold a meeting with the security personnel and journalists to reorient them.
Reorient who? The people that did the beating are on camera. You don't do anything and you're going to have a meeting to reorient, and you think the next time he will not slap you again. And my problem is, when some of these things happen, my problem is I don't want it to be a continuation. Then you come and you retaliate and blah, blah, blah. That's not what I think. That's not my idea of democracy. That's not the vision I have for this. That's not how I expect things to run. But if you allow, you play the ostrich, like you are having a meeting so that they talk about what? When you know exactly who has misbehaved, the guy that was using the belt, obviously he should be called to answer. And we should all know that this is the person, this is what has been done to him, so that in the future people do not see citizens as goats or something that you can just lash because you feel like it. But if you don't do it like that, then the power changes. People will, as I'm saying, the MPP as an organization will not decide that. No, we will be focused on nation building. But you cannot stop some people within the ranks from retaliating. Then they'll retaliate. We'll come and sit here, use very flowery language, we'll move on. Then that's how we are living our lives. How does that sound reasonable? It's something that we must all come together to stop. But if we do not, as I'm telling you, it will not be something that the political party will sit around the table and say that today, let's let the police people go and do that. It doesn't work like that. Somebody will just, out of their own volition, because of what has happened to them or what has happened to someone close to them, like you are talking about, and they'll go and retaliate. Then it's going on and it's going on. And it's an unending series of, I can't find a civil word. Let me leave it there.
Right, Mr. Jantuah, there are many who have said that if the perpetrators of the election rerun, the one that happened in Ablekuma North, if they were brought to justice, if they were prosecuted to the letter, we wouldn't have had this emboldened, sense in a security force for personnel of the Ghana Armed Forces to remove the belt and assault the journalist in the manner in which we saw, when there's already an evidence.
But you didn't quote exactly what the president said. You just took one bit of what the president said.
He said he's a card-bearing member. I could go there.
Not that. No. The president said the gentleman who did that should be interdicted before he came back to say that he would have a meeting with the security forces. And
we had the gentleman who assaulted the journalist during the rerun was interdicted. What has come of that investigation?
That has been a major challenge for me, both in the MPP government and in the NDC government. Main challenge. You cannot come and tell the people of Ghana that we are going to deal with this, and in the end, nothing happens. You look in this Fourth Republic, all the challenges that have happened with police and security forces and the ordinary Ghanaian and journalist. Can you tell me who has been interdicted? Can you tell me whose uniform has been taken off them? None. But anyway, what right does anyone have to assault somebody else? What right? If you say something right now that I don't like, I don't have the right to assault you. More so, a security person. You were, and you see, with the army, what is even more tragic is that you hold the coat of arms. The coat of arms, that is an embodiment of this country. And you think you can whip somebody, especially when you decide to whip somebody where there's no provocation. What is the tool of the journalist? Was he carrying a gun? Was he carrying a cutlass?
He was carrying
camera. Was he carrying a gun? Was he carrying cutlass? Was he carrying sticks? He was carrying his camera and what? His mic. Did he have a right to be there? Yes, he had a right to be there. Why? Because he was reporting an incident to the people of Ghana. What wrong did he do? What wrong did he do that the army, and when you say national security operative, he's a soldier. He's not a soldier. And anyway, what are soldiers doing in urban areas? They are a force. You saw Bawku. You saw them there. That's the police force. That's their work.
But
that's
demolition exercise.
Wait. That's an army. That's their work. They are what? A force. The police service. They handle all urban area disputes. And sometimes, yes, soldiers can be called in for special circumstances. So what were the soldiers doing at that demolition site? Can you tell me? Who brought them there? What were they there for? And even if they arrested, which I don't think at a situation like that they have powers of arrest, they arrest the person. Well, anybody has powers of arrest, even I have powers of arrest. They are supposed to hand over who they've arrested to the police. But you see, one of the major challenges of this country is that the police haven't been able to hold that respect of wearing the uniform as a police officer. So people don't respect the police. So every second we'll go and bring the military. Oh, go bring the military. Bring the military for what? It is not their place. It's not their place. I want to see prosecutions. I want to see the army establishment handle this situation. And if they have to take the man's uniform off him, take it off him. I need to read, and unfortunately I haven't read the armed forces law as yet, so I'm not sure of some of the things in there when it comes to such things. And that person, once his uniform is taken off him, the journalist fraternity should take that person to civilian court for further action, because it has to stop. I don't understand how security people, out of their own volition, slap somebody for a reason. Look at Ablekuma. That journalist he slapped, what did he slap him for? Was he provoking him? He was just telling him to move. The next thing you see, he slapped the person. It is wrong, and it has to stop. They are there to serve us. We put them in place. We put them in position. They have no right to assault us.
Right, we are running out of time, and I have to squeeze in everybody at this point so that we can finish with this conversation. And Mr. Ibrahim, I would love to come to you, and if you can be brief with us. I want to find out from you, are the legal protections for the media in this country paper promises?
Oh yes, the constitutional provisions that guarantee freedom of speech and excited to the media. And in every country, in every functioning democracy, the media is very, very important. And if they are not allowed the freedom to report whatever events is happening in the country, then we really have a problem. I would like to think that, I'm not sure whether because of our revolutionary past, it's like we are scared of the security forces in Ghana. Government, and I remember when MPP was in power, the NDC came out strongly against the military and the police. And when MDC comes in power, there tend to be some voices from MPP against the security services, and NDC then become friendly towards them. I'm not sure why. It's generally point to the fact that it's like we are scared of them. Even if they go outside the law, all of us are not able to freely speak our mind. And I think that side needs to be looked at as a society.
Right.
We cannot have the military operating outside the law. As I kept saying, Chapter 5 of the 1992 Constitution emphasizes individual freedoms. Even if you are enforcing the law, are you allowed to slap another individual as an adult? Or even a child for that matter, even though the law allows reasonable chastisements of children. But as an adult, do you have a right to lay hands on them, regardless of whatever they have done? And that's what we need to be looking at. And you can see that the security services have been doing things with impunity. Look at the Ablekuma incident. This was a police commander from Adenta. According to the report, he was a police commander. And if a police commander found the need to assault someone, what happened to the forces under him?
Right.
I mean, they will take you and lessons from this. So I think as a society in general, either we need to train our military, the military and the police properly by letting them know that regardless of the offense of the individual, you have no right, no power to lay your hands on them.
Right.
And if you breach it, there need to be consequences. And the ultimate consequences will be dismissal. I also believe that they lack operational independence. They seem to be taking
and in just 20 seconds, Doc, time is not up, friend. We're running out.
Okay. Yes. So we need to look at the operational independence of the police, and they need to give them appropriate powers. And if those powers are abused, they ought to be punished.
Right. Thank you very much. Let me bring in Richard Kumadoe for his thoughts. Okay, Richard is not on the line. Maybe we can take a last one from Enoch. Enoch, just in 30 seconds for me, how can journalists protect themselves and go about their duty in a safe manner, even in the face of coercion? Can you hear me, Enoch? Well, we don't have Enoch over there. But let me see if there are some comments coming through on Facebook before we wrap up. It's already time. Abdul Basit Mahamud says, bail is not about form, but function. Right, a very good friend to the show. Well, many of you have sent in your comments. I'm sure I have read them. You will not have trouble with me for today. But that will be it for the show today. Thank you very much for making time for the forum here. We brought you the biggest issues of the week, and with the help of our legal experts and political analysts, we're able to unpack the issues for you. And many thanks to our guest once again, Nii Kpakpo Samoa Addo, private legal practitioner and member of the NDC, who you heard a while ago, and Dr. Ekua Amoakoh, member of the National Communications Team for the opposition New Patriotic Party. Kwame Jantuah, renowned member of the CPP and private legal practitioner. You also had Enoch Afoakwa, who joined us via Zoom. He's a lawyer and a member of the NPP Legal Directorate, and Richard Kumadoe, Security Intelligence Consultant. And final one, but certainly not the least, Ishaq Ibrahim, lecturer at the University of Professional Studies here in Accra, the law school. Many thanks, everyone, for tuning in and for being part of the show. To our Facebook friends, we couldn't have done this without you.
Thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.